What's going on, guys? Haxa here with another episode of Skul the Hero Slayer. However, we are continuing on with the item tier list that I started yesterday. I did rares and commons yesterday, and today I told you guys I'm going to be doing uniques, and that is precisely what I'm going to be doing. However, I did miss a couple of items here, as you can see. I put them at the top here. We're going to very quickly tier them. And like I said, if anyone knows anything I missed, like actually just completely forgot to include in the tier list, feel free to bring it up, and I'll see if it's true or not. The items I'm more likely to miss than any are the ones added in the DLC, because I'm kind of using the wiki as like a guide here to show me which items I am supposed to be tiering and stuff, and the wiki is super out of date, so there's a lot of items that aren't on there yet. The DLC items are one of them. So with that out of the way, let's jump in, because I am on a bit of a time crunch here, and I would love to get this done. So let's start with the old cross. This is the common stun item. This is stun and relic. It's another one of those holy themed item that just has relic tacked onto it, which is very unfortunate for these items. If I remember correctly, this gives crit rate, and your attacks have like a 2% chance to stun. I think it's like 5 crit or something. It's very bizarre, because crit's not attached to stun in any way, shape, or form. I think this item's pretty bad. I usually don't like having it on my stun runs. I don't think maybe I've taken it like once or twice accidentally to the end of a run. And yeah, I don't have a very high opinion of it. It's probably back here. I would even say it's worse than this, the Broken Dagger. But it's probably better than this. I think that's probably a good spot for it. I don't want to spend too much time on that one, especially. Let's move on. What is this item even called? I have to I have to go look. Because like it's not on the wiki. I have Skul open once again with the dev menu, so I can figure these things out. It's called Helm of the Ancients, or just Helm of Ancients, I suppose. This is Heritage. Actually, I just need to spawn a Helm of Ancients, because I do not know a lot about this item. I don't know if I've ever taken it on it to the end of a run. It's not bad, by the way. It's Heritage Mystery. When you use a Quintessence, increase physical attack by 60 for 10 seconds. Genuinely not bad. I guess I just need to play more Heritage runs. Like, the stats this gives you, the inscriptions, like, sure, mystery is mystery. It's not, like, super special. But, also, if you hear me fanning myself, I apologize. It's a little hot in my room. But Heritage is, like, an incredible build-around. It's very powerful. I guess there's a little anti-synergy with this item and Heritage builds, because, and it's not super bad, but, like, the whole point in Heritage Plus, which is, like, what you're building towards if you're using Heritage, is you want longer Quintessence cooldowns, because that's what makes Heritage Plus so powerful. And, like, this gives stat boosts for every 10 seconds, or for 10 seconds whenever you use your Quint, you get, like, 60% damage. So, like, that's a lot of downtime with Heritage Plus, which I think does kind of affect my opinion on it a little. But, like, the stat boosts are good, and you could take this on a run where you're, like, I don't know. It's weird, right? Because it's, like, why would you ever take... I don't know. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more my opinion's being swayed. It's just like, if you're not building around Heritage Plus, then Heritage is not a good build around. Heritage, just plain Heritage, is not very good. You need Heritage Plus, which is like, only in the in-game gauntlet. So, I don't know. I think this item is probably like... Is it better than Ancient Incense Burner? Probably not. Just in a general sense, even though this gives stats, or damage percent, I should say. I don't know. Maybe like here? I think it's an A tier item. I just don't think it's a super spectacular item or anything. It's just like, there's a little anti-synergy involved with it, being like Heritage Plus, being like demanding that you have long Quintessence cooldowns, and this being like 10 for 10 seconds when you use your Quint, you get 60 damage percent. So I don't know. It's just a little weird. Moving on to Lake in a Bottle. This is a Fairy Tale item I missed yesterday. We're still in the rares, by the way, just so y'all know. This is Fairy Tale and Mystery, of course, because it's a DLC item. And this is actually an evolution item. I don't know what it does at the base, and I'll just spawn in both. Yeah. So I got both of them. Lake in a bottle. Oh. I gotta give myself Undyne as well for this to actually work. Oh god, I can't actually like read it. Okay, here, I'll do it like this. Increase magic attack by 40%. If you possess Water Spirit Undyne, Undyne returns to its original form. So this evolves. It's an evolution item. And when you have Undyne, which is, you know, the Water Spirit we're about to talk about, the Absolute Zero Fairy Tale Spirit and this item together, they transform, and this turns into Starlight Bottle. Increases magic attack by 55%, increase attack speed by 45%. And when you don't have Water Spirit Undyne, it turns back into just Lake in a Bottle. It's good. It's not really good on its own, and attack speed's kind of worthless on Fairy Tail Run, so I don't know why they went with attack speed. But like, I don't know. It turns Undyne into a powerful spirit, and you can't really go wrong with that. But the item itself, just in a freaking vacuum, is kind of mediocre, but that doesn't affect my opinion too much on it because I am trying to assess these items from best case scenario. So I think it makes it like low A tier. Probably I would say like here maybe. That seems good to me. Like it's good and it does good things, but on its own it doesn't do anything, and like the stat boost of 25 damage or 25 attack speed is just bizarre. The stat gain otherwise is nice though. And I put these two next to each other for a good reason. Now we'll move on to Water Spirit Undyne, who is obviously a lot different these days, a lot more valuable than her companion fairy, which we'll talk about later. This is Absolute Zero Fairy Tale, and normally it's just a normal spirit that does normal attack stuff, but when you have the Lake in a Bottle, it turns into Lake Spirit Nimue. Increases magic attack by 55%. So like it gives you stat gain. Wow, dude, this is such a good spirit. Yeah, it attacks every 20 seconds. It deals a lot of damage. It makes a really, really loud noise. It's like one of the louder spirits. You'll definitely know if you have her. I think this is an S tier spirit for sure. Right next to, we're not gonna. She's definitely better, or is she better? I guess she is better than the Shade because she has damage percent attached to her. I'd say she's probably around, I'd say like here. Actually, probably better than this. Let's put her here for now. That looks like a good spot for Undyne. She's definitely an S tier item. Very powerful, though obviously she's only really good if you have the lake in her. But like I said, I'm assessing these from like a best case scenario perspective. Like Water Undyne Spirit otherwise is probably like an A tier or maybe even a B tier spirit. I guess probably A tier, but like I'm assessing her if she's transformed. So that is my assessment on that. Let's move on to Mithril Gear, an item. If you watch my previous item tier list, I hated this item. I think I put it in the lowest possible tier, and I still have my gripes with it, but my opinion has definitely shifted on this item. This is an item, it's a masterpiece item, masterpiece and chase. Let me go ahead and spawn one in so I can properly read it to y'all. I'm going to assess it as Absolute Mithril Gear, or is that what it's called? Yeah, Absolute Mithril Gear is the evolution when you awaken it with masterpiece. Dash attacks increase physical attack by 8% for 6 seconds, stacks up to 80. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect decreases damage taken by 25 and increases physical attack by 40. So it's like a total of 120 damage percent gained. My problem with this item in the past, and still technically now, honestly, is it's like really like pikeman centered, I guess. You can do it with tackle dashers, but like you have to really create an awkward flow of gameplay for yourself to do it with tackle dashers. It's not impossible, but it's annoying because like tackle dashers, you know, they have pretty high cooldown on their dashes, and you know, they're certainly more vulnerable when they're dashing than just dashers are, just regular dashers. So I don't know, it's always annoyed me that this only works with dash attacks. I honestly still to this day wish something like Cavalry Decoration would enable Mithril Gear. Like, I remember I had a video like a long time ago where I first discovered that cavalry decoration doesn't work with this, and I I like did a rant, and I honestly still feel that way. However, my opinion has increased on this item because my opinion on tackle dashers has increased across the board. Back then, I hated tackle dashers, and in fairness to me, they were weaker back then. They got buffed in the Dark Mirror update. But now, I have a much higher opinion of tackle dashers and a higher opinion of mithril gear in general. I think it's more usable these days than it was back then. I'm going to go ahead and put it in A tier, and I'm going to put it probably like still near the bottom, but I don't know, like I guess like here. I think that's fine for it. Maybe a couple above. I'll put it here. Actually, I'll put it above Bumbox. It's not bad. It's niche, and I wish it wasn't. And the other thing that really annoys me, and this is like a rant, I should not be doing these because I'm in a hurry, but I'm gonna do it here. The thing that especially annoys me about this item is, or I guess I should say, Genie. Gonna talk bad about my boy here. The apparitions that appear after he dashes, like a genie comes out and punches where you dashed, those are not considered dash attacks. Those are considered like basic attacks or something. It's so stupid. Devs, can you please make that be a dash attack from Genie, please? Please. It's all I really want, honestly. Genie would be so much cooler if he could do that. All right, that's all I got on that. Let's move on to Aftershocks. This is Brawl Stun. When you stun an enemy, it further damages them with a little like extra attack thing that comes out, like a little wave of damage. I'm gonna spawn it in and make sure I'm not missing something. Oh yeah, it also increases skill cooldown to 60% for 5 seconds. This has a cooldown of 1 second, unlike Warrior Steel Mace. I don't understand why, but that doesn't stop it from being a good item. Brawl is a great inscription, as we all know, and Stun is also a great inscription, as we all know. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. I don't have too much to say about it. This did get buffed recently with the 60%. I even think that might have been 1.9, maybe, like the most recent update. I just know it hasn't been long. It's like not an insane upgrade or anything, but it's still nice. Like, you can't really go wrong with a little extra oomph. The 60% cooldown speed's nice. So yeah, Aftershocks is good. I consider it to be an A tier item, a pretty high A tier item, honestly. Because it has good inscriptions across the board, like just straight up. This thing's just good. Stun is good, and this is good. So I'm actually going to put it, like, I think here is a pretty good spot for Aftershocks. If you've never played with it, you should. I don't know, man. I don't hear people talk about it very often, but it is good. Let's move on to Architect's Breastplate. This is Courage Fortress. Whenever you cast a skill, you get... I'm going to spawn one in for me. I'm stupid. Like, I'm taking way too long, but fuck it. I gotta know. Using a skill grants a 10 HP barrier that lasts for 1 second. Taking damage increases physical attack by 60% for 2 seconds. So it has like indirect damage scaling. You have to take damage on purpose with 10 HP barrier. It's just man, dude, this is an item that there's so many items like this in the game. Like, this is an older item. It was designed back before the Dark Mirror was a thing, when normal mode was the only game mode. So taking damage to a 10 HP barrier was completely fine. Like, you could do that and it wouldn't be a problem. But nowadays, 10 HP barrier is nothing. Like, everything deals more than 10 HP in the Dark Mirror. Like, so you're just constantly taking damage. It's not like it has Revenge. It has Fortress. And yeah, Fortress got buffed recently. I think it's not... no, it's just... They didn't increase the barrier. It's still 10, but it's like more frequent. I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on Fortress, and I'm certainly not sold on Architect's Breastplate. I think it's just like it's old. It's showing its age. I'm even tempted to put it in C tier, but I'm just gonna put it in low B tier because it's still Courage and it does scale your damage. But where does it go? Probably like here. I think that's a fine place for it. It's saved by Courage from falling into C tier, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's just unfortunate for Architect's Breastplate. It's just old and it needs an update. A lot of items are old and need updates. Anyway, moving on to Stone of Plague. This is Masterpiece Poison. This one's a little complicated, so I have to spawn myself one in. I'm going to be tiering this as what's it called again? Stone of Plague, Authentic Stone of Plague. Yes, I'm going to be tiering it as Authentic Stone of Plague. Though, it is worth mentioning that normal Stone of Plague is also quite good. But, poisoning an enemy increases physical attack by 25% for 10 seconds, stacks up to 125. When this item's effect is maxed out, attacks will inflict poison every 5 seconds. So it's poison, it's like consistent poison spread and also poison damage scaling. And damaging your scaling your damage on poison runs is extremely important because that's like the entire point of poison, is like having a high damage percent to make sure that your poison ticks are sufficiently damaging the enemy, which makes this item very, very, very important and valuable on poison runs. Even if you can't awaken this item, it's still good. This is, in my opinion, an S tier item. Definitely one of the better poison items out there. It's not quite as good at spreading poison as a discarded syringe, but that doesn't matter. It has the damage scaling, which makes it, in my opinion, better than discarded syringe. It's actually pretty high up here, I would say. I'd put it like here. I think that's a fine place for it. It's just good. It's just like one of those items that you're happy to have. And honestly, I'll talk about this before I talk about the Blood Drunk Sword. This is like the, I guess, companion item in a way to Stone of Plague. This is Terrible Blade Shards. Definitely one of the poison item or the bleed items I respect the most. Let me spawn in a Terrible Blade Shards, or what are they called? I'm just gonna spawn in 5 of these so I can awaken it. This is Blooming Blade Shards. Terrible Blade Shards, honestly, is not that good. It's not terrible. You can get away with it. But, like, you definitely want to awaken your Terrible Blade Shards more than you want to awaken your Stone of Plague. Because Stone of Plague is good without awakening it. But awakening this is a pretty big deal. Blooming Blade Shards is Masterpiece Excessive Bleeding. Sorry, I forgot to mention its Masterpiece. Bleeding allows you to swing Terrible Blade Shards with normal attacks for 4 seconds, dealing physical damage, which has a 10% chance to inflict bleed. So, basically, this is like Bleed Evil Sword Kyrian in a lot of ways. And it can scale itself, because the damage that these do has a chance to also apply bleed. It's definitely like I've been pretty vocal about my opinion on bleed across the board. I think it's a very... It leaves a lot to be desired, but Terrible Blade Shards they do not leave a lot to be desired. These are very good, and it's definitely like one of the ways that bleed can get there often, you know? Because, like, yeah, we all know that Evil Sword Kyrian is good, so like, what if we had Evil Sword Kyrian that causes bleeding? So I have nothing negative to say about Terrible Blade Shards. It's definitely an S tier item. I'm tempted to put it above Stone of Plague, but my brain is saying no, because bleed is just way less consistent. And also, it's just not better than Stone of Plague flatly. Like I am considering best case scenario here. I think I'm going to leave it here. Maybe I'll end up changing it, but putting it right behind Stone of Plague I think is completely fair, because they're both very good. And now we'll talk about another... Bleed's going to get glazed up for just a sec here. Let's talk about the Blood Drinking Sword. This is Arms and Excessive Bleeding. And it's an item that you have to awaken. And let me go ahead and spawn one in here so I can properly remember exactly what you have to do here. Blood. I'll spawn in both Blood and Blood Drinking. So we have Blood Drinking Sword. Bleeding increases physical attack by 1%, stacks up to 50. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect increases crit rate by 20%. The Blood Drunk Sword is just increases physical attack by 50, increases crit by 20. So that's pretty funny. So Blood Drinking Sword, whenever you apply wounds, you scale your damage. And once you scale it all the way to the max, it turns into a new item, the Blood Drunk Sword. So I'm going to be tiering this as the Blood Drunk Sword. Blood Drunk Sword is very, 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 very good. You know, scaling your damage and also giving you crit rate is really good for bleed, because bleed, when you get it to excessive bleeding 4, can crit. So that's like the whole purpose behind this item. I kind of wish there were more bleed items that centered around crit. This is, to my knowledge, the only one. But yeah, this is like the kind of exactly the kind of perfect item you need for bleed runs to really get off the ground. And notice they're both uniques, and then there's the legendary bleed item, which we'll be talking about soon. But like, that's the problem with bleed, is all of the good stuff is like in the unique and legendary tier, and that's only the first problem with bleed, but that's a pretty big one. However, I'm not here to talk bad about bleed. This is a good bleed item. It's so good that I think I'm going to even put it like way up here, because you can even take this on non-bleed runs. Like, I often find myself taking this on crit item runs, and I just enjoy having it because it's crit rate and it's physical damage, and you want, you know, scaling your damage like that is good. Doesn't even matter that it has a useless inscription on it on a crit item run, because, you know, it's arms and it's a dense crit rate. So I have a very high opinion of Blood Drunk Sword, so much so that I think I'm going to even put it right here, right behind Offensive Wheel. It's very good. Let's move on to Clone Stamp, which is going to be one of the hardest items to tier. Clone Stamp is and I'm going to spawn me one in, just so I can really get this right, because it did get changed a couple patches back. I'm also going to spawn in a Bone Clone, because we got to talk about that too. Increase physical attack and magic by 40, increase max HP by 30, and this item gains 2 random inscriptions. The one I spawned in has Mystery. The Bone Clone I spawned in has Courage and Wisdom, which makes no sense. Wait, that really makes no sense. Wait, what? I guess that's, what? That is very interesting. Okay, that's weird, man. The game freaking loses its mind when you spawn a Bone Clone in, apparently. However, let's talk about Clone Stamp. Clone Stamp is, you know, like, it's so wildly unpredictable, and that's its problem. Is almost always, even when you see this item, you are not going to take it because it has inscriptions you don't care about. The stat gain in the max HP is nice, but it's not enough to justify just holding on to this item. You want it to have an inscription on it that you like, but when you see this item and you like it, God, dude, it's so good. Like, it's so good. Like, a good Clone Stamp is just incredible. Because I always talk about, it's been a while since I've mentioned this, but item slots are very important. They're very valuable. So having something that can build one of your important inscriptions with just increment it by 2. Excuse me, I was stuttering. Increment it by 2 and only take up 1 item slot is super good. But it's just inconsistent. I don't think I can in good conscience put this in A. I'm even tempted to put it behind the Princess box, but I think I'll put them together, and I'll put it above it. Because, like, and this is the problem with the best case scenario approach, is like, if this was the best case scenario, I'd put it in S. But, like, with this item in particular, I think I just have to kind of average out how I feel about it. And yeah, I honestly am tempted to put it behind the Princess box, but I think I'll just leave it here. It's about as good as the Princess box, and a lot worse sometimes, but it's fine. It's still good. Let's move on to Bone Clone. This is one of the new items they added in 1.8. This is the evolved version of Clone Stamp, if you're lucky enough to find it with the bone inscription. And I was, personally, I'm not trying to brag or nothing, but I had a run where I had, it's like the ultimate bone run. I don't even remember when I posted it. It was like maybe a month or so ago, where I got both Bone Box and Bone Clone together, and it was cool as fuck. But Bone Clone does all the stuff that Clone Stamp does, but it also, activating a bone inscription effect will amplify damage dealt to enemies by 5% for each active bone inscription effect for 15 seconds. If you remember Bone Box, it increases your damage by, I think, 55. So it's the amplification version of that. And honestly, I think I'll just do the same thing I did up there with, or down there, I should say, with Clone Stamp. Wait, why is I guess they are a little, this doesn't feel right to me. Bone Clone's better. I guess Bone Clone is, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Bone Clone's better than Clone Stamp. I mean, it does everything that Clone Stamp does, but, you know, has extra goodies attached. So I guess it's fair that it's better. I don't know. I just look at this and something don't feel right to me. Maybe I'll change it by the end of the tier list, but we gotta move on and think about other things right now. However, it's just like, you're never gonna fucking see this on him. Like, it's so rare and hard to get. Like, I don't know. You're just never gonna fucking see it. So, yeah. It is what it is. It's good. It's just like you're almost never going to see it. And bone runs have kind of inherent built-in issues. Though this does help you get around those inherent built-in issues. Anyways, moving on to the bone items themselves. This is Bone of Courage. It is courage and bone, obviously. What this does is and I'm going to try and speed through this a little bit because I'm looking at the time and I'm a little nervous. This makes it to where whenever you have, depending on how many power skulls you have, if you have 1 power skull, it amplifies your damage a little bit every X amount of seconds. And if you have 2 power skulls, it amplifies your damage a lot for every X amount of seconds for X amount of time. It's like a very short amount of time where you get like Giga Amp, and then there's a cooldown period. And this item evolves and it amplifies it even further if you have a Bone Plus. It's quite good. It's definitely one of the better bone items. You often see me take this item in my runs. I definitely think it's an S tier item because Courage is just a good inscription. Even if you don't play around Bone Plus, this is still just a good item. I'm going to go ahead and drop it here. No. Okay, fine. No. Okay, I'll put it here. I don't know. I'm just dancing around with Hunter's Boots. And to me, I think Courage ends up winning out, especially because, you know, this is very consistent, whereas this, it's still good if you don't awaken it, but I don't know. I'm a damage slut, what can I say? Moving on to its sister item, this is a Bone of Wisdom. This is Wisdom and Bone, if you can imagine it, and what it does is, depending on how many balance skulls you have, it creates like this little aura around you that deals damage. It's one of the better ability spam items in the game. So if you have 1 balanced skull, it creates an aura that deals more damage, and the aura is bigger. And if you have 2 balanced skulls, it creates an even bigger aura that deals even more damage. This is probably one of my favorite ability spam items in the entire game. I often take this, and you know, it's good. It's just genuinely a very, very good item. So good that I'm probably gonna put it here. I think that's fine for it. Because it's very comparable to something like Manatech Gravity Generator. Why, you know, I'm gonna move this up. I keep pushing it down. I'm gonna move it here. It's so far away from these guys, and these guys are better, but like, I don't know, I don't want it to be that far away from them. But yeah, it's very good. I guess if you want a quick explanation why this is worse than this and these have better inscriptions. So, oop, didn't mean to do that. I don't even know why that happens. It's so weird. Moving on to Bone of Swiftness, the Speed Skull variant of the bone items. This is a item that, depending on how many speed skulls you have, whenever you use your basic attack, it deals additional damage on top of that. If you have 1 speed skull, it deals less additional damage, and you have 2, it deals more. If you have 0, I didn't even mention this on any of those, but if you have 0, it deals like shitty damage. And you only take this if you really have 2 speed skulls, in my opinion. It's good. I don't think it's as good as either Bone of Courage or... Oh, and also it has Rapidity as its inscription and Bone. I don't think it's as good as either Bone of Courage or Bone of Mana. But it is good. I'm going to drop it here in A tier. I'm going to drop it near the top. This seems good. Maybe I'll put it here. It is good. It's just like I have a lower overall opinion of basic attacks than I do other archetypes in this game, which we can maybe get into when we start talking about other items. But I don't know. It's also just not as powerful as these two because it doesn't have like a damage scaling inscription on it. So that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to Charred Jama'dar. Charred Jama'dar is a arson and hidden blade item that whenever you attack with your basic, it has a chance to apply burn to an enemy. And let me spawn in a Charred Jama'dar because I feel like I'm forgetting something about it. This is yeah, your normal attacks have a 15% chance to inflict burn. Inflicting burn on a burning enemy deals additional magic damage when you inflict burn on a burning enemy. It's quite good. Charred Jama'dar is like one of those items I feel like I don't play around with enough. It's very interesting and cool. It's a cool way to play Arson. It's just like a lot of Arson skulls. Like some of the best Arson characters in this game, like Mage and Bomber, don't require basic attacks to spread Arson. They just spread it. Alchemist also, you know, has his flasks. And he'd probably be really good at using Jama'dar because you can just kind of spam his basic for free. But the other two, you know, I don't know. And also you could put this on a non-Arson skull. Like you could do Dominator Arson and like use Dominator's extremely fast basic to apply Arson over and over and over and deal the magic damage and stuff. And Arson Enhanced is extremely powerful. I don't know if I talked about this yesterday when I was like tiering this, for instance. But Arson Enhanced is like super good. So this is a good item across the board. Something I definitely want to play with more as I keep playing Skul, obviously. I'm gonna put this in A tier, definitely near the top. In fact, I will put it right here. I think that's a fair spot for it. It's very similar in principle to the bonus swiftness, although bonus swiftness always activates when you use your basic. This doesn't, but it is quite good still, and I do still like it a lot. So yes, I will leave it there and move on to Chest of Flames. Artifact Arson. I'm going to spawn one in because I don't quite remember everything it does. And I want to get this right, so... attacking an enemy creates a pillar of fire that deals magic damage to nearby enemies, cooldown 1 second. So yeah, it's Artifact in Arson. It just kind of deals like a damaging effect. Shockingly, despite having Artifact, I don't even know if I think it's better than Charred Jamadar. Like, the effect is nice though. I think the cooldown really kills it, ultimately. Like, cooldowns on items definitely lowers their value a lot. Obviously, the devs have to add cooldowns a lot of the times because some items would be too broken, and then other times they just like bury their head in the center. Like, this is fine. Yeah, this doesn't need a cooldown. It's fine. But this, however, holy shit, we can't let this thing go untethered. But Chest of Flames is good because Arson is good and Artifact is good, and the effect it casts is fine. It's good. I think it's definitely an A tier item. I would probably put it, I don't know. Its inscriptions are valuable, which is kind of influencing my opinion here. You know what? I'll put it here. That's a good spot for our old pal Chest of Flames. Yeah, it's acceptable. And now I'm seeing this here, and I'm gonna drop this back to about right here. But yeah, Chest of Flames is good. I like it a lot. It's just like a good arson item. I mean, you like to have it, but it is unique, so you don't see it as often as you'd like to. Anyways, moving on to Contaminated Core. This is one of the Chimera items. It's the unique. It's poison and heritage, and it basically scales your damage depending on how long you're in a room. It scales your damage by X amount, but it also makes you take X amount more, or Y amount more damage, I should say. It is one of those damage scaling poison items that I talked about earlier when I was talking about Stone of Plague. How important it is to have damage scaling on your poison runs. So this is a good item. It is a little dangerous to play around with, but I do like it a lot. I don't know if I consider it S tier though. I think I can consider this S tier, but I think I'm literally going to leave it here, and we'll kind of review it further down the line and see if maybe I drop it somewhere down here. But damage scaling on poison runs is very important, and this item definitely has its use. I don't take it a super ton, or super often, I should say. However, I do like it, and I probably should take it more. So, yeah. Let's move on to Cowardly Bowmaster's Bow. This one I'm definitely going to have to spawn one in, although I do have a general idea of what it does, but I just want to make absolute sure. This is a strike and misfortune item that amplifies projectile damage by 40% when there are no enemies around. I don't know the radius it uses. I would imagine it's similar to Hawkeye's, if not identical to Hawkeye's range. Sorry about that. I had to burp. I ain't gonna do that in your guys' ears. Anyway, yeah, I don't have a high opinion of Hawkeye at all, because my take on that is it's pretty damn hard to keep an enemy out of your radius rather than being like following an enemy and staying within their radius, which is why I like Shorthand but not Hawkeye. So I think the same general thing applies here, where it's like keeping an enemy away from you. Like, just imagine Dark Skull, right? He's just fast as fuck, and he like locks onto you constantly. He's basically always up in your face, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that makes this item a lot worse. The inscriptions are good, but I don't think that's enough to save it from being B tier. Like, it's not bad, it's just like, it's just okay. And I don't know, I just don't really ever see myself taking this. I guess maybe I'd take it on like a Hunter Strike run. Maybe like a Mummy run, but even then you're getting a little suspicious there. I don't know. I just don't have a particularly high opinion of it. It's in B, but like, where is it in B? It's not a bad B tier item. It's probably like here. Yeah, I think that's probably a solid spot for it. Maybe behind the Hex Tech, but Hex Tech is a lot more niche than this, I think. But like, how many projectile users are there in this game? I'm gonna leave it here though, because we're in a bit of a hurry. But like, it's not like super bad or anything. It's hard to use, and if you can make use of it, the amplification is obviously very good, because 40% amp on an item is kind of nutty. Moving on to Cretan Bull. This is a treasure and chase. Whenever you are a power skull and you use a skill, this enhances your dash and makes it like send you flying way off into the fucking near distance, and it deals a bunch of damage to the enemies as you pass through them. I don't believe it has a cooldown, but I'm gonna check real quick because I just want to be accurate here. Nope, no cooldown. So yeah, it just enhances your dash whenever you cast a skill and then dash afterwards. I honestly don't think this item is like terrible. It's one of those items I regret not using more, because it's like fun, right? Like, this is just a fun item. The damage it deals isn't bad either. It's just like, it's hard to fit it on runs, because like treasure is an inscription that I kind of avoid taking to the end of my runs, because I'm not a fan of treasure enhanced because I think it's too strong. But I guess I have to be objective in this tier list. So having treasure is good, obviously. So like, you could conceivably take this and just use it as a means to an end for treasure 4 or treasure enhanced. And also, I don't know. Like I said, the effect isn't bad. It's good. It used to suck, but now it's fine. I don't know. I want to put this in B, maybe low A. Maybe this could be a good spot for Cretan Bull, but I think I'm going to put it in like high B. Put it like here. I think that's a good spot for Cretan Bull. It's just a matter of like, it's just, I don't know. It also doesn't scale your damage, and there's so many treasure items that do. It doesn't scale your gold percent gain. It doesn't scale your damage. It feels like one of those items that just has treasure tacked onto it, and there's not a lot of items in this game like that. So it's bizarre, but it's not bad. You can use Cretan Bull and get some good use out of it and be happy. Moving on though to Dark Priest Robe. This is Relic and Fortress, I think, but I'm going to make double sure of that. This is an item I have a lot to say about. Okay, it is Revenge and Relic, my bad. That's actually not super bad, but it's also not great. Well, the inscriptions are fine. Relic is whatever, but Revenge is obviously great. However, the text on this item is the most important part. Gain a 30 HP barrier every 30 seconds when the player's current HP is 30 or below. Crit rate increases by 30% while the barrier lasts. So that sounds, the 30% crit rate's like super crazy. That's super dense crit rate. My problem with this item is massive though. This is another one of those items that is just so old. Like, it's so ancient. Every windscreen when I was first learning Skul the Hero Slayer had this item. Every one of them. It was this item and Warrior's Pauldrons. I always had these two. But this is back when normal mode was like the only mode, right? We exist in a freaking post-Dark Mirror world, and also we exist in a freaking Dark Skull and Alexander world, you know? 30 HP or less just almost is not a thing. Like, you can't really control that very easily. Like, back in the day when, like, the most damage you were taking is, like, 30 at a time, it's like, yeah, you can manage this. This is actually pretty good back then, but nowadays when the freaking Dark Skull's hitting you for, like, 100 damage, like, this shit's just whack. Like, you can't use this. You just can't use this. Like, you would die if you tried to use this. To me, it's one of those items that's a product of its time. It's old. Also, sorry, I was in Skul the Hero Slayer just looking at it. I should have been looking at it here. But yeah, this item's just old as fuck. It's super outdated. It shows its age. I cannot in good conscience put this anywhere but D. Keep in mind, I am a DM10 player. I will say this much. If you're in normal mode or low Dark Mirror levels, this is probably still a pretty good item. However, I'm a DM10 player, and I'm rating this from DM10. And this is unusable in DM10. It's not as bad as some of these, though. In fact, it's probably at the top of... I'll put it here. it's one of those items that I just feel needs to be updated. They did update it with the crit rate. It did not always give 30% crit, but I don't know. It doesn't really function in a way that makes sense in end game Skull. And not that they have to tailor make everything for DM10 players. There are still items that should exist for lower level players, but it doesn't have to be so. I don't know. It deserves a little bit of a buff. Maybe even 50 HP or below would be like acceptable. I don't think I'd ever still take it, but I wouldn't have as much negative to say about it. But yeah, let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on one item. To Diorite Circulet. This is, I believe, Heritage Heirloom. It is a quintessence-based item that whenever you deal damage with a quint, you gain, I believe, like 95 damage percent. It's kind of like the weird sister of another item I guess we'll be talking about later. That deals, whenever you deal item damage, you gain damage percent. It is, I don't know. It's not bad, but like, I never use it. I would be shocked if you guys ever use it. And I'm one of the biggest advocates for damage dealing quints. Like most people, when they think of quints, are like, orc, that's it, just orc. But for me, I'm like, yo, there's so many good quints that deal damage and people don't focus on them. But even me, with that opinion, doesn't take this item. It's probably because its inscriptions are weird. Like, how often do you build around heirloom? And heritage runs, like I said, are pretty much centered around like high cooldown quints and using heritage plus to deal massive damage. And that makes this item a lot worse because you're not dealing damage with your quint very often. So I think that probably puts it in B tier, but it is high B tier because you can still get pretty good use out of this. Where did I end up putting the helmet? Because it is better than the helmet. I didn't put it in C, did I? No, I put it in A, I guess. Yeah, I'd say this is probably an A tier item. Definitely better than, I'll put them next to each other, but it's a better version of it. And I'm not going to do the orc exist meme this time. So I think this is like a pretty good spot for it. Let's move on to the item I alluded to earlier when I was talking about Undyne. This is Fire Spirit Salamander. It's basically just exactly what you would expect. It's Arson, Fairy Tale. Every 20 seconds it deals damage, but this does not have an evolution like Undyne, which is unfortunate for it. It could never be as good as Undyne for that reason. And frankly, I don't consider it to be particularly good in general. Like, it's good on Fairy Tale runs, but it doesn't... Like, it's just a means to an end to make your Oberon deal damage faster. That's just kind of how fairies are in general, and to make them each other's deal more damage. But like, there's no utility to it quite like there is quite with Undyne here. So it's like significantly worse than Undyne. It kind of sucks that Fire Spirit Salamander got hung out to dry, whereas like, Undyne got Lake in a Bottle and all that good stuff. I think for that reason, I'm gonna put Salamander somewhere down here. Because also keep this in mind when you're using the spirits. It's like the secondary inscriptions they have almost never get used. Like, what good is Arson on a Fairy Tale run? It's certainly better than Rapidity and Fortress, but it's not that great. These guys are in B tier. I'm going to leave this guy in A tier. I'll probably end up putting him like... I'll put him here. That seems good. No, I'll put him here. Yeah, that seems good. That seems better. Because, like, Fairy Tale is good. So, like, he has that going for him. And he does increment the time between attacks for fairies and Oberon. However, he just doesn't have that juice quite like Undyne. So let's move on from him to probably one of the fan favorite items in the entire game. This is the Forbidden Sword. I'm going to rank it as Evil Sword Kyrian. Evil Sword Kyrian, whenever you deal or use your basic or dash, it leaves like a wave of damage that deals behind you or in front of you, depending on if you dashed or attacked. And also increases your damage by 60%. The inscriptions are Arms and Rapidity. This is absolutely one of the best items in the entire game. Definitely going to put it here for now, but I'll still talk more about it. Evil Sword Kyrian is just like, it's been in the game for a very long time, and it's kept its juice for an entire God, I can't talk today. It's kept its juice for a long time, It's pretty much been one of the top dogs for all of its existence in Skull, and unless power creep just obliterates this game, it probably always will be. Yeah, man, it's just like an example of the devs doing an item super correct and never having to edit or change it. Although I guess I can't say that for sure because maybe in alpha days they changed it or something. But yeah, it's great. Forbidden Sword / Evil Sword Kyrian, you really just can't go wrong with it. I even just end up usually throwing it on random builds. Like even builds where like, why would you want that there? You're not even using your basics. I'm dashing, so I'll take the Evil Sword. It's like one of those, it's like a hidden chase item, you know, like secret chase item just dropped. It's Evil Sword Kyrian. You never saw it coming, but yeah, he's secretly at his core a chase item. He just doesn't have the inscription. How close are we? We are still so far out. I'm very nervous about not being able to finish this. Let's try and pick up the pace here. This is the Demonomicon. It's the sister item to Evil Sword. This item is a lot less consistent than Evil Sword though, because I guess I will get a little bit into the Forbidden Sword. To awaken the Forbidden Sword into the Evil Sword, you only have to kill 300 enemies, which is easy. You can even do that shit in Act 4, and you could just farm enemies and get it done. Whereas the Forbidden book is you have to hit 500 enemies with skill attacks. So like any kind of skill damage, if you hit them with, or hit an enemy with it, it increments this up. You can get up to 3 procs from one enemy. It is rough, to say the least. This item is not universally usable on all skulls. Like, it's some skulls, like say, I don't know, Living Armor with Soul Burn, for instance, is able to very, very, very easily increment this and awaken it. Whereas something like, I don't know, Werewolf struggles a lot more, at least with most of his skills. And, you know, there's better examples than that, but that's the one I immediately came up with. Basically, just to say is like, not every character is going to have an equally easy time awakening this than some others, which makes it not as takeable as this. So, is that enough to make it fall out of S tier for me? I don't think so, because the Forbidden Book is still very good. It doesn't even slightly approach, in my opinion at least, the power of Evil Sword. So even like, so it's harder to awaken, and also it is not as powerful as the Forbidden Sword. Oh, and also its inscriptions are Artifact and Mana Cycle. Also, if you can hear my nephew screaming, I apologize, but he's just having a good time. This is, in my opinion, still an S tier item, I would say, but I don't even think it's close to Forbidden Sword. Like, it's certainly better than this. It's better than this. It's better than this. It's better than this. Now we're getting into iffy territory. I do think it's probably better than that because of its inscriptions. I would say it's better than these two. Probably better than these, but I would say this is probably a good spot for Demonomicon. Right below the Evil Sword, but like it's still quite a good number of items away, and I might even end up reconsidering this, but it's not bad. It's just inconsistent and hard to use, and if you can awaken it, it's great, but just a matter of actually getting it awoken. However, let's move on to Frost Giant's Leather. This one I'm gonna have to spawn in because I genuinely just forget what this thing even does. This is Fortress or Heritage and Absolute Zero. Using a skill grants you the Frost Giant's protection for 5 seconds, cooldown 30 seconds. While active, you receive 30% less damage and receive a 10 HP barrier that lasts for 20 seconds every time you freeze an enemy. Wow, cooldown 30 seconds though. Stacks up to 20. That's not too awful bad, I guess. This does provide decent survivability, I guess. The problem with this item is it's Absolute Zero. Why do you need survivability on your Absolute Zero run? Like, I don't understand this item's intended use from the devs. Like, I'm sure they made it for a reason. Maybe they made it because they see that, like, sometimes when you freeze an enemy, you interrupt their attack pattern and you can, like, throw off your flow of gameplay and take damage accidentally when they come out of the ice. And they're like, well, we'll just give them damage reduction and HP barriers to make that a little less hard. Which I guess is valid. I just personally have never used this item, and I don't think I ever need to or ever will. And I would imagine most people are on the same page. Because, like, it doesn't scale your damage, and I think everyone at the end of the day is at least a little bit of a damage slut. I would say this is like a high C tier item, and I might even be underselling it. It could be like low B. I'm sure the item is good and functional, but like I just really don't see the point of taking something like this. I'll put it at the tip top of C, and maybe by the end I'll feel like putting it in B. But I don't know. To me it just doesn't seem necessary. That's my assessment. Let's move on to Frost Witch's Staff. Yeah, that's what it's called. Got it. Frost Witch's Staff is an item that got changed a few patches ago. It used to be very mediocre, but now it's one of the better freeze items that you can get to make freeze a little bit more of a consistent inscription to play. Freezing an enemy triggers the Frost Witch's Staff to deal magic damage to surrounding enemies and inflict them with freeze. Upon dealing damage to the enemy with Frost Witch's Staff's magic with the Frost Witch's magic, I don't know what that means. Oh, the blast, okay. Magic attack increases by 8% for 12 seconds, stacks up to 80. That's interesting. That's good. I mean, this item's good. Like the uptime on the damage gain is really good. You pretty much always have that shit. The blast of damage, if I remember correctly, deals good damage. Its inscriptions are good. It's absolute zero and artifact. I don't know. I have nothing negative to say about this item. I think it's one of those frost enabling runs, or absolute zero enabling runs, I should say, where like we'll talk about this more when we get to it. There's a legendary item that I'm sure most of you guys know about. In fact, why am I being I don't know, I'm being like mysterious. It's Glacier Breaker. Glacier Breaker is like the defining item of frost runs. It's kind of like if you don't have Glacier Breaker on an absolute zero build, it's significantly worse. But this item kind of is a fill-in to make absolute zero a little more consistent. And for that, I think it belongs very high up in A tier. I was even considering S tier, but I think A tier is more appropriate. I'm going to put it here right below Hand of the Destroyer, because Hand of the Destroyer is a rare, and I don't know, stun's just better than freeze. But freeze is not bad, especially if you high roll. But much like bleed, it's a little more dependent on a high roll than like some of the other statuses, but not quite as bad as bleed. I will say that much, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, Frost Witch's Staff is good. Let's move on to a recent little bit of a Zero to Hero story. Let's talk about Gunpowder Explosive Arrow. This is Misfortune Brawl. Whenever you shoot a projectile, it causes an explosion, and I believe it has a 0.3 second cooldown, which used to be like a 1 second cooldown. So this is an item that got pretty majorly buffed in 1.9. Console players aren't going to get to experience it yet, and I don't know when you guys will get to. However, PC players are frolicking in the fields of flowers. We're having a lot of fun with this item. It's definitely a massive improvement. Yeah, man. Explosive Arrow used to be one of the worst items in the game, often laughed at and mocked by everyone. Nowadays, it has a lot more value on it. It does work with item projectiles, for the record, so if you have thief armor, they will start exploding too. This is an item I want to build, projectile run with, which is one of my like patented fucking goof. I think I talked about it yesterday when I was talking about After Image. But it's like my patented goofy thing I made up where you just get as many projectile items as you can and then just explode the enemy with projectiles, which is now way more possible than it ever was. I have not played around with this too much. I'm not ready to put this in S tier, but I am ready to put it at the top of A. And I'll put it here, actually. I think this item is now completely and perfectly usable, and it's also is actually quite a good it's a good companion item for the item we're about to talk about, because this has Misfortune and Brawl, and when I won't talk about this too much yet, but like, why am I being freaking mysterious? Everyone knows what this item is. Okay, get out of the mysterious mindset. It accompanies Gunpowder Sword well, because Gunpowder Sword is a crit item. I don't know why I'm doing the mystery thing. Like, if you're here and you don't know what Gunpowder Sword is, I don't know. Maybe you're new. But if you are, welcome to the community. But, like, Gunpowder Sword is, like, one of the more beloved items in this entire game. So, but yeah, this is a good companion to it because it has Brawl, which this has Brawl. And this has Misfortune, which is the crit inscription. And this one's crit rate. And you can take these two together and just have, like, constant explosions proccing. That's not something I've gotten to do yet, but it's something I'm very excited to do. But yeah. It's good. Let's move on to Gunpowder Sword, who is one of the long-reigning kings of this game. The original good, goated even, physical damage crit item. This is arms and brawl, and whenever you deal crit, it causes like a AoE explosion to appear, and it deals additional damage to all the enemies. This is very, very good. It has been for a very long time, so much so that I'm just going to immediately place it right up here where it belongs. I'm even tempted to put it above our boy here, but I honestly am not going to disrespect the boy. Gunpowder Sword is just good. Back in the day, I remember people were like, it's such a good item. I just wish it didn't have Brawl tacked onto it. This is back when Brawl sucked. And now that Brawl is good, like, there's really nothing negative you can say about Gunpowder Sword. It's just good. Deals good damage. Deals AoE damage, so it's good in rooms, unlike Invisible Knife, which is only one enemy. But that doesn't stop Invisible Knife from being better, but just pointing that out. This is AoE. And yeah, man. Gunpowder Sword is excellent. Everyone likes it for good reason. Let's move on to Goldmane Rapier. Goldmane Rapier is a Leona Sisters chest item. It is a unique... Leona Sisters are the only bosses in the game who don't have a legendary item. I don't know why. Very weird. I wish the devs would fix that. However, Goldmane Rapier is a rapidity spoils item. Yes, it does have spoils. That is not good for it. It's whenever you deal a basic attack, every third basic attack causes a slash to appear, much like the Leona Sisters' basic attacks. And it appears on an enemy and deals damage to them. I don't know if it counts as a projectile. I don't think it does, but maybe it does. Point being, though, that this item is... also, it increases your attack speed by, I think, 20%, which is not bad either. I don't have anything negative to say about this. I don't think it's an S tier item, but it is good. I do wish it had arms and rapidity, but then there'd be like so many arms rapidity items, it'd be insane. But it shouldn't have spoils. I know why it has spoils, but it just hurts the item a little bit. However, it is still good. I think it's like a pretty high A tier item. I think I'll put it like here. Or maybe here. No, I'll put it here. Goldmane Rapier is good. It is hard to get because it's a Leona Sisters item, but like whenever you see it and you're on a run where you can take it, it is nice to have. But I very rarely end a run with Goldmane Rapier, which is kind of weird. I probably should use it more often to the end of runs, but I don't know. Something always makes me pivot. Anyways, let's move on to Fatal Sword. This is a poisoning and arms item that whenever you apply poison, it shoots a projectile out in front of you that deals additional damage and can cause poisoning. This is kind of an interesting item in the sense that it kind of changes the way poison plays. If you have Fatal Sword, it becomes more of an item damage run than it becomes like just scaling off of your poison, which is kind of strange. But it isn't bad. Fatal Sword is like interesting to me. It's also very glitchy. I don't want to talk about this too much because I'm already pressed for time, but like it affects your hitbox. If you've ever played a poison mummy run and you had Fatal Sword, you may have noticed a glitch where you're picking up the ammo crates as they're falling out of the sky, which is very bad for mummy. So I would say if you're ever playing mummy, avoid Fatal Sword at all costs because your run will just like not be playable. But at the same time, that's only really affected. It only really affects mummy, and it can even be a good thing for certain characters like Ghoul. So like I don't know, Ghoul Fatal Sword's like an interesting combo. But like it has like a strange interaction with your hitbox that that kind of makes it, I don't know, it just makes it weird. But Fatal Sword in my opinion is like a low A tier item, like maybe mid low. It's like weird, right? Because poisoning in general is an inscription that where you try and deal ticks of damage, like you take like weakness exposure. And you build your damage percent up, and you get poisoning 4, and then you get poison enhanced, and you're just dealing like machine gun damage to the enemy. Whereas Fatal Sword is just like you're trying to apply poison as often as possible, and then deal item damage. It's very incoherent with what normal poison runs do, but that doesn't make it bad. I'd say it's probably like I'll put it here. I'm even tempted to put it like here. I will put it there. And also it's starting to thunder outside. I hope that doesn't mean the power or anything's going to flicker. If the power went out, I think I'd actually have a panic attack because I've put so much effort into organizing this into like all the uniques are here. All the legendaries are back here. Oh, I forgot the sin items. I'm going to have to move these up actually. I'll move them all here. Which which means I have even more items to tier, which is bad. This is what I was doing earlier to prepare for the video. Move it all here. I think that's all the uniques. I certainly hope so. Yeah, I am tiering the Sin as uniques, by the way, so just keep that in mind. Let's talk about what's this called? Growing Volition. Yeah, Growing Volition. This is Strike and Fortress, I believe. It is a it's concentration based, and it's like whenever you start concentrating, you gain 10 HP barrier, and when you get hit, I don't think you have to have the HP barrier broken, but let me just check. Damage to the barrier. Yeah, it doesn't have to destroy it. It just has to damage it. Increases your crit rate by 50% for 2 seconds. Cooldown 1 second. Which sounds like a good thing, but it really just isn't. Because for one, concentration is niche. There's only a few skulls in the game that have it. And most of them don't really care about getting a burst of 50% crit rate. The inscriptions are weird and hard to use. It's basically a hunter item. If you're doing a crit or a strike hunter run, you could certainly use Growing Volition and be happy with it. But then again, you're taking that 10 damage to, you have to guarantee to break the barrier. And in the Dark Mirror, like I said, everything deals a ton of damage. 10 HP barrier is nothing. So you're going to end up taking a bunch of damage. And it just I just don't see the value in an item like Growing Volition. I think this is like the definition of a C tier item. Like just peak C tier. And I'll put it like near the top, I guess, like here. No, I'll put it here. I think it's probably more usable than this. But I don't know, man. I've never used this item, and I likely never will unless they add a character who it's good on. Like it's tailor-made for Hunter, and my Hunter runs just don't care about concentration, and they certainly don't care about something like Growing Volition. Taking damage in the Dark Mirror is a big ask, so you better be doing something really good. Alright, let's move on to Hand of Glory. This is Dual and Antique. For every X amount of HP you gain, and I'll just spawn one in. I'm trying to be fast here, but I want to be thorough with an item I like Hand of Glory. Increases physical attack by 4% for per 10 max HP. Stacks up to 120%. So this is extremely dense damage scaling as long as you have a lot of max HP. Which what Skull Run in 2024 does not at least have like 250 max HP, unless you're playing like Omens or something. But you have your Arachna Shrine. You have like dense HP scaling items like the Ring, and of course you can get it from the Spokesman of the Mist, or even likely to get it from the Spokesman of the Mist if you're not playing with mods like me. So like very often your Hand of Glory is going to be doing a lot for you. And the inscriptions are very good. Antique is great. Duel is fantastic. The effect is really good. Damage percent is awesome. So like this is like super giga S tier. One of the better items in the entire game. I have nothing but respect for this item. I'm going to put it right here. I think that's a perfect spot for Hand of Glory. But yeah, like this does everything you want an item to do in this game. It promotes healthy gameplay with getting a lot of max HP. It gives you good inscriptions. It gives you good damage. What more could you want? The answer is nothing. Let's move on to Heart of the Ascetic. This is Revenge and Relic? It's actually, it probably is Revenge and Relic, but I want to make sure. Yeah, Relic and Revenge. Increases max HP by 150. Your HP continuously drains when it's at 50% or above. That sounds really bad, but it's not. This is basically neutral. When you pick this up, it kind of does nothing for you. However, I don't know. It basically what it does is if you have like Revenge or something, or any kind of healing. Back in the day, this was really good before they changed Relic. Relic 2, I should say. Whenever you would enter a room and you'd heal. I think they changed Relic 2 because it was too similar to Achievement, and they wanted Achievement to stand out more. But basically this pretty much guarantees you can always heal. And if you have items that proc when you're healing, such as the Scabbard, or the if you're really lucky, the Cleric's Chosen Bible. Ooh, it's starting to storm out, guys. It basically guarantees that you're always, even if you're at full HP, you can still heal and like get value out of it. I don't know. Heart of the Ascetic is weird. A lot of people really don't like it. It's like a scary item on the surface, but it's good. I like Heart of the Ascetic. The inscriptions are good. The effect is fine. It basically does nothing, honestly. Like, you pick the effect of Heart of the Ascetic is essentially like this does nothing. Though if you have like Omen 2, I think it probably hurts you. But point being is like this is fine. It's a good item. I think it's like a B tier item. In the middle, I would imagine. It's not quite as useful as it used to be, but it still has its uses. I think I'll put it here. No, I'll put it here. I'm going down. I'll put it here. That seems good for me. Like, it was starting to fall, much like the Jinny's Chain Sickle. However, it's not bad. It's just like hard to use, I guess. Moving on to Hero's Holy Sword, I think it's called. It's Chase Arms, and whenever you dash, you gain, I think, like 100 damage % for 2 or 3 seconds. It used to be 1 second. This used to be a really hard item to keep up with, but I believe it's 2 seconds. 100 damage % for 2 seconds, I think. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But it's in the ballpark of correctness, and it is quite powerful because of that. Like, it's extremely dense damage scaling attached to a very easy condition to fulfill. As I said a lot in the last video, Chase is a very powerful archetype, and this is just a way to make it stronger. So yeah, I have a very, very high opinion of Hero's Holy Sword. It's definitely an S tier item, and I would probably put it about like here. I guess the biggest gripe I have with it is it's not like item damage. Like, I certainly prefer items like this and this in Chase than this. However, you can just make this and this stronger with this. So, in fact, I'll even put it here. It's good. I'm a big fan of this item. I'm even tempted to move it up further. Sorry, I was burping. Don't want to burp in your guys' ears, as I said earlier. But let's move on. I'll leave it there for now. Move on to Holy Footsteps, I think it's called. This is Chase Relic, so another one of those relic items that just has relic on it. I'll have to pull it up. It's been a while since I've even looked at this item. But I believe it scales your magic damage. Dashing increases skill cooldown speed by 10% for 4 seconds, stacks up to 50. Reaching the maximum limit of this effect increases magic attack by 70. So yeah, this isn't even bad. It's actually good. It's a perfectly usable, decent item. It's just a matter of, like, I don't know. I guess I just never, like, there's other items that I find to be more useful, because, like, my dash runs don't care about skills at all. Because sometimes they cast skills, but it's all about dealing damage with your dash. And 70% magic is good, but my magic is almost always not as important as my physical, because there's a lot of really powerful physical damage dealing dash items, but magic, you have like Sylphid Wings, which isn't even Chase, but it is dash damage. I have like what's it called, Broken Mana Engine and stuff like that. I probably should take, also I'm in Skull again, I apologize. I should probably take this item more often. I just forget to. It's just one of those items, whenever I see it, my brain doesn't even register that it's there. It doesn't make it bad though. I think it's like a B tier, maybe low A tier item. I'll even put it in low A. And it's probably better than this. I just don't have experience with it. I'll put it here. Holy Footsteps is, in my mind, here. But it's probably actually, in all reality, better than that. I just never use it. I don't have a lot of experience with it, and I don't even really... It doesn't register on my radar whenever it appears, which is probably a me problem. Anyways. Ooh. That was a... Ooh, it's still... Yeah, that was like a delayed one. That must have struck something weird. Let's move on to the... what's it called? Huntress's Chosen Bow. This is Strike Misfortune, and if I remember correctly, it increases your crit % and also crit damage. But I'm going to spawn one in. This is one of those adventurer items that can pop out whenever you loot one of the adventurers, so you actually see this item fairly often. And no, I was mistaken, it's only crit damage, though it does have Misfortune, so it technically increases your crit % too. But increases crit damage by 35%. Genuinely one of the better strike items in the game. I always say that, like, strike is kind of hard to build around, and to make strike work, you need like this and Veiled Mask to get the most out of your strike runs. And now there's even more items that are like even better. We'll talk about one of them later. But yeah, Huntress's Chosen Bow is good. Definitely, in my opinion, like high A tier, maybe even S tier. I'll put it at high A for now. Let's drop it here. Huntress's chosen maybe it's longbow. Is it? Yeah, it's wooden longbow, not chosen bow. It's Huntress's wooden longbow, excuse me. But yeah, this item's very good. Highly recommend it. It's especially good on strike runs. If you do a strike run, pick up this item. And the good news for you is you're likely to see it because it's an adventure item. Alright, let's move on to Mage's Bracelet. This is, or Mage's Mana Bracelet, I should say. This is Wisdom and Heirloom, and it, whenever you cast 5 skills, drastically increases your skill cooldown speed. This is an incredible item, especially on characters who use skill cooldown speed effectively, like the Mage or Alchemist, or just any number of characters. Really, anyone can use skill cooldown speed, but obviously some use it better. But this is definitely an item that you want on any kind of skill spam focused build. Not skill spam items necessarily, but like skill damage focused. Definitely an S tier item. I would say it belongs probably somewhere along the lines of here. I'll put it here. It is very good. An item that it took me a long time to come around on. I used to never take this, but foolish me, it is very good. I remember the epiphany I had when I realized I should be taking it more. It was a good day. However, let's move on to Magic Pocket Watch. This is Mutant and I believe Mana Cycle, but maybe not. I almost never take this item. It's another one of those. No, Mutant and what the fuck? That's so weird. Increases skill cooldown speed by 70. When swapping, increases concentration speed by 100% for 12 seconds. This is like the Mage item, basically. Like, Mage uses this item extremely well, but it also doesn't scale your damage. So, you know, me being a damage slut, I don't really care too much for it. But, like, Mage's Meditation is a concentration thing, if you didn't know this. It's affected by both skill cooldown speed and concentration speed. So if you swap a lot with your mage and you're using this item with him, like his concentration becomes like very, very fast, or his meditation, I should say. But it doesn't scale your damage, so I almost never take it. I think this is like a firm B tier item, because it does do good things. It's just one of those items that I never find myself taking. I'm going to put it right here, ahead of Knight's Determination. It's good, but like, I don't know. Fucking give it some damage percent and then we'll talk. Let's move on to Mana Eater. This is a Mana Cycle Hidden Blade item that whenever you cast a skill and then attack afterwards, it sends like a little blast of damage in front of you. There's another item that's quite similar to it. The Goblet of this thing. The Goblet. It's like the new masterpiece item. We'll be talking about it tomorrow. But in my opinion, this is like one of the more underrated skill ability spam items in this game. It's especially good on Little Bone. Like, Little Bone uses this like no other character in the entire game. You could even make good use of this on Officer. But yeah, like, I don't know, Mana Eater is quite good, and I never see people talking about it. Like, it's like super, 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 super good on Little Bone. I'm tempted to put it at like S tier. It definitely is a high A tier. I'm even comfortable just plopping it down here. I guess the problem with this is it's really good on Little Bone, but it kind of loses value on other characters because it creates like a weird flow of gameplay where you're casting a skill and then you're basic attacking. You're casting a skill and then you're basic attacking, where you could just be casting skills or basic attacking. But Little Bone doesn't care about that because he's always basic attacking anyway to animation cancel. I think it's fine here. Maybe even like, it's fine here. I am tempted to put it here, but I'll leave it here. Mana Eater is good. You should try it if you haven't. Everyone stop sleeping on Mana Eater. Mana Tech Cudgel. This is Strike Mana Tech. Every time you, it's like, I can't remember exactly if it's like every time you cast your skills, you get like crits, or if it's basic attacks. Normal attacks turn into critical hits for 3 seconds after 3 skills are cast. Okay, so it guarantees your normal attacks to do crit damage, but only after you cast 3 skills. I have never used Mana Tech Cudgel, and I doubt I ever will, even though there is maybe some good use for it. But it's like, why only normal attacks? Normal attacks dealing crit damage just is like weird, I guess. Especially with Strike being attached to it, because like the whole point in Strike is like you deal big gigantic hits with your crits. but Manatech Cudgel just kind of like, or what I should say is, normally you're dealing more damage with your skills, right? Your basic attacks are just kind of there for like plinks, but skills are like where all the big damage is at. So like, if you're playing a strike run, why would you want your basic attacks to be guaranteed to be critical hits? And it's only 3 seconds, so I don't know. I don't have a super high opinion on Cudgel. I guess it's like at the back end of B. I'm even tempted to put it in C, honestly, because Manatech is also weird with strike. I am gonna put it in C. I'm gonna put it here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone can give me a testimonial about this item, but I just don't think guaranteeing basics to be crits on a strike run is particularly useful. Because, like I said, the big damage comes from skills, and this is just like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Let's move on to, I guess it's cousin. I don't know. Are these even supposed to be related? This is Manatech Staff. This is Misfortune and Manatech, and basically this is like whenever you cast a certain amount of skills, and I'll go ahead and spawn one in because I do want to actually be thorough with this one. Using a skill increases magic attack by 10% for 8 seconds, stacks up to 60. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect increases crit rate by 20. So it's really more comparable to something like Blood Drunk Sword, because they give like the similar stat boosts. This actually gives more stat boosts, but it's conditional. But technically, so is this. I used to not value this item at all, but nowadays I value it like a lot. It took me a long time to see the value of Manatech Staff, but it's a very, very, very good item. It's good damage scaling. It's good crit. Like all the good things I can say about Blood Drunk Sword, I can say about this. However, this is not as good as Blood Drunk Sword because this has Manatech, whereas this has arms. But it's close. I think I could safely put Manatech Staff here and feel completely comfortable with that. It's a very good item. You should try using it on your crit item runs, or really just, I don't know, in general, it's just good. Let's move on to Master Brawler. This is Brawl and Execute, I think. Pretty sure. It is kind of like Champion's Belt in the sense that like the more enemies that are surrounding you, you gain more damage percent. I don't remember the precise damage scalings, but I have to hurry, so I'm not going to look it up. I have a very low opinion on this item pretty much across the board, and I always have. I think it's a master fighter at home, basically. Brawl is good, obviously, but like anything that doesn't work on bosses just inherently gets a thumbs down from me. I'm gonna go ahead and plop this right here because it is better than Master Fighter, I think, because I like its inscriptions more. However, it's not good. So yeah, I don't have much nice to say about it. Let's move on to something I have nice things to say about. Our good pal Master Fighter, who has been one of the densest damage scaling items in the game for a very long time. This is Duel and Execute, very good inscriptions. Whenever you are surrounded by one enemy or less, I believe, maybe two, you gain 70, or it's like you have naturally 30% damage, and then you gain 45 additional damage, which is the same for this item. I should have mentioned that. 30% flat scaling in both directions, and then when you're surrounded by 3 or more enemies, it's an extra 45. This is the opposite, so it's like, solo versus groups. Unlike that item, this item is good because guess what? It works in rooms and against bosses. So we're gonna move that way the heck up here. I don't have a ton to say about this item. It's pretty straightforward. Duel is great, Execute's great, damage percent's great. What more can you ask out of an item? The answer is not much. I'm gonna plop it right here, and nope, I'm gonna plop it right here actually. Here. Final answer here. It's good. You should play with it. I often find myself bringing it to the ends of runs, especially duel runs, because duel runs are great. And execute runs. I don't know. The inscriptions on it are just justify it inherently, but then there's the additional damage it gives you. It's good. Let's move on to Stone of the Air. This is Heirloom and Wisdom, so it's very similar to Mana Bracelet in that way. But I would go as far to say it's even better because whenever you fell a boss and you have this item on you, you gain 30% damage, I believe. which is quite nice. Obviously, that's very dense damage scaling. And these days it got even more consistent, because back in the day there was a glitch where it didn't count against the Dark Hero. Though I don't think it was a glitch, more of an oversight, because he used to be like the final boss, so there was no reason to count him for Stone of the Air. But this is one of those items where it's like the earlier you get it, the better. Though it does have a max stack, I believe, of 6 or 5. It might be 5. I believe it's 5. So like you can only kill 5 bosses and gain the stats on this. But like, it's such dense stats that you gain from this that like you don't even care if you get this. Or like the max stack doesn't matter, because the stats you gain from it are enormous. This is one of the best wisdom items in the entire game, and whenever you see it early, you can even take it as late as like Act 3 and still be happy. Even Act 4, now that Dark Skull, Dark Hero, and Joan count, so that's like 90 damage %. So it just gets more and more consistent the more bosses they add. This is definitely high S tier, like super high S tier. We're talking like way the heck up here. I'm gonna put it here. I think that's a fair place for it. Let's move on to Metal Box. This is Courage and Treasure, so really good inscriptions on it. This is much like its companion item, Stone of the Air, except this time you gain 20 damage % in the physical direction whenever you kill an adventurer. But unlike Stone of the Air, this is not nearly as consistent, because you need to get this before Act 3 before you can use it. If you get this before Act 3 and you pick it up, it's excellent, because you gain so many stats from it. However, if you get this after you kill the Act 3 adventurers, you only get 20 damage %. The inscriptions are still nice. You can still take this on a run where you get it in Act 4, but your inscription had better be built around Treasure and Courage for that to be a thing. And that's still kind of a desperate pick. For those reasons, this is not even close to as good as Stone of the Air. I think it's probably here. But it's not bad. Like, being here is not bad. Metal Box is great. It's just not as consistent as Stone of the Air. Let's move on to the companion item to... I mentioned it earlier. Oh yeah, Diorite Circulet. Where the heck is it? And I ended up putting it in low A. Not that I'm going to put these two next to each other. I just want to put them next to each other for now. So this is an item that whenever you deal item damage, you gain X amount of... It's like 90, I think, damage %. It's Mana Tech and Execute, so excellent inscriptions. Pretty much nothing negative to say about this item. It's very easy to deal item damage, and yeah, you can just very, very simply and easily do this, like with no issues. Like it's just super easy to activate the Rear Blast. Rear Blast is definitely a very high tier S tier item. Maybe even right next to the Manatech Cudgel or the Manatech Staff. I think I'm actually going to put it behind the Manatech Staff, though, because this gives, like, sure, it's less damage %, but there's a lot more going on with an item like this. And it works very well, but this also works very well with one of the better archetypes. This works well with every item damage archetype. The more I think about it, I think I'm going to put it here. But they're close. These two items are very comparable in like what they do and when you take them, I guess. But yeah, ultimately speaking, I think it's just ever so slightly better. And the more I look at this, the more I realize I guess I'm just going to have to finish this video tomorrow, which means I apologize, I didn't do my job correctly. I said yesterday's tier list, the next episode would happen on Thursday. It's going to happen on Friday, right? Today's Wednesday. And I'll finish recording this tomorrow and record the Legendary episode with it. And yeah, this will be coming out on Friday, I think. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I just recorded too late. I'm a bozo. I thought I had more time, but I don't. And I also don't want to like make this like I already feel like I'm rushing a little too much. So I'm just gonna do the boot method, and we'll continue where we left off tomorrow. So if you've never heard me do the boot method, it is you know, I will the recording picks up immediately after the boop, and the boop is coming. Boop! And just like that, we're back, guys. Sorry about that. You know, I don't like pulling out the boot method often, but it was necessary, I felt, because how, I don't know, I felt like I was going too fast. I was, like, forcing it, I guess, to, like, I was forcing a pace I was uncomfortable with to try and get through the tier list as fast as possible. But, I'd rather go at my own pace, still trying to keep it brisk, but not like breakneck pace. So I postponed my recording session and stopped for that evening, and now I'm back. However, all that storming that was happening last night did knock my power out, which made my computer turn off. And thankfully, TierMaker kept my progress in the tier list up to this point. I didn't have to redo everything, thank the Lord. But it did readjust everything that was down here back to its like original starting order. So I had to quickly grab all the uniques and put them back up here, which is why things are kind of differently ordered. Like Mana Gauntlet was not the next item we were going to tier, but it is the next item we're going to tier now, just because I wanted to quickly get everything ready for the rest of the recording. I'm pretty sure I got all of the uniques. I've looked it over like 4 times, and I'm like very quickly looking it over now again. I'm pretty sure I have all the uniques up here. If we don't, we'll just tier them in the Legendary and Omen video like we did at the start of this video. Anyways, I just wanted to address the difference down here, but not too important. Anyway, let's move on and start talking about these items. This is the Mana Gauntlet. It is Rapidity, it is Artifact. Let me spawn one in real quick to really get a good feeling for it, just so I'm accurately describing what it does. Normal attacks increase magic attack by 5% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 75%. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect lets your normal attacks deal additional magic damage. So essentially, Mana Gauntlet, whenever you use it or use your basic attack enough times, you will have like a blast of additional magic damage that appears on your target. Mana Gauntlet is very, very, very good. It's always been very good, but like the devs did buff it over time. It used to be kind of hard to keep it going, basically, because the duration of time where your additional damage would happen on your basic attacks was very short. It was like for 2 seconds, as long as you did 15 or something, however much it is. I think it's 15. For 2 seconds or something after you did the basic attacks, you would be able to maintain the additional damage. But over time, the devs, like, they turned it to 4, and everyone was like, wow, that's crazy. Mana Gauntlet's so much more consistent. And then they turned it to 6, which is pretty funny. But yeah, Mana Gauntlet's very, very good. Easy S tier item. Definitely one of the enablers for like basic attack runs, and I just consider it to be like a mixed damage enabler in the same vein as our boy Invisible Knife here. Now, obviously not quite as good or even close to as good, I can safely say, as Invisible Knife, but it is great. So great, in fact, that I think it can easily find its way up to the tip top here. Fitting to put Hand of Glory and Mana Gauntlet next to each other. I think this is fair for Mana Gauntlet. It could also maybe go behind Hand of Glory. Also, I'm going to move this up. Metal Box should be higher than Hand of Glory, in my opinion. Which means I don't, you know, but I still think this is probably better than that. Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's keep them next to each other, just for symbolism, but also for accuracy. I do think Metal Box is that good. But yeah, this is a great item. If you've never used it, you definitely should. Let's move on to Proof of Fellowship. Proof of Fellowship is one of the Leona Sisters items. Like I said when I talked about Goldmane Rapier, this does not, like Leona Sisters chest, for whatever reason, does not have a legendary item in it. They are both uniques. It's really strange. But Proof of Fellowship is Mutant and Spoils, I think. I'm going to check real quick. Actually, it might not be Spoils. In fact, it might be Antique. It is Antique, yeah. It's Antique and Mutant, and when swapping, increase attack speed by 10 and increase crit rate by 4% for 12 seconds, up to 50 and 20 respectively. So this is definitely an interesting item. I've had varying opinions on it over time. I'm like a swap guy. You guys know this. Back in the day, I thought this created like a bit of a weird flow of gameplay where like it kind of forces you to swap too much. Like swapping no longer is like a something you do to like dodge damage or to I don't know, just gain the upper hand when you're like facing down a swarm of enemies and you want like a big fat AoE or something. Like certain swappers, like, you know, like Minotaur and Hunter can do stuff like that. But Proof of Fellowship kind of turns it into, you swap to maintain the stats, and you have to swap a lot to maintain the stats because the time of the duration of the buff is not that long. 12 seconds, and just imagine like how long swap cooldown is flat. I think it's like 6 or something, maybe even more. You know, obviously with mutant, because this does have mutant, it changes, but it's still, you know, it basically what it does is it just makes you have to swap, like forces you to swap to keep the stats. And I did not like that back in the day, but the stats this gives are very respectable. 20% crit rate is very dense. 50% attack speed, I honestly kind of forget that it does that most of the time, but that's also pretty good. When I have this item though, it's usually for the crit. Like, I don't really care about the attack speed. That said, this is a very good item on certain characters, but on other characters, it's a lot more annoying because, you know, you don't want to swap with them. I think Proof of Fellowship is probably somewhere in the A tier. But what does that mean? Like, where in A tier? I do value this item a lot. I do think it's just, like, if we're comparing it to Goldmane Rapier, more often I think you'll get value out of Goldmane Rapier, especially for the average player. But, like, I am trying to be unbiased in this, but I am also going to, you know, I'm going to rate it based on the way I play the game. So, like, I'm a swap guy, as you guys know. So I value this item quite a bit more than someone who doesn't swap would, and someone who doesn't swap would probably put this in like C tier or something. I think it's A tier. I think it's a solid A tier item. It's honestly kind of comparable to the badges. I think putting it around the badges is good. Is it better than the badges? Sure. I would say so, because this is definitely, you can take this on a crit item run, and crit item as an archetype just has so much value, and you can really never have enough crit rate on these runs, except obviously above 100 is like, you know, whatever, but 20 crit rate's very respectable, and 50% attack speed's also good, so I think that's solid for Proof of Fellowship. Maybe I'll change my mind later. However, let's move on to Grace of Leonia, which, good lord, man, what a freaking item. This is Relic and Wisdom. Let me spawn one in. Let's see what it, let's be precise here. Gain 20 HP barrier every 30 seconds. Magic attack increases by 70%, and a barrage of orbs shoots out at nearby enemies every 5 seconds while the barrier lasts, dealing magic damage. Goodness gracious. For one, we have to point out that this doesn't have 10 HP barrier syndrome. They actually gave this one 20, which, man, dude, can we get some of that on some of these other items, please? It's, the orbs deal so much damage. They're heat seeking. Every single one of the orbs hits the enemy. Every 5 seconds while you have the barrier, it's insane, man. Dude, it's so good. It's so good. Like, Grace of Leonia is so good. I am such a freaking stan for this item, because I'm pretty much like most of my runs are item focused. Like, that's my preference with run building, is like raw damage. Sure, it's cool, it's fine, but like items dealing your damage for you with Go-Getter, amplifying them is just my general preferred play style. And this item is just so good in any kind of run like that has magic at all. Like, if you're mixed damage in any way, shape, or form, or just pure magic, and you see Grace of Leonia and you're doing item stuff, you take it. Like, it's so good. It's even better than, it's very comparable, actually, in a lot of ways to this item. Obviously, it's not ability spam, but you have it up often enough to where it basically just becomes as potent and constant as ability spam items. And I don't know, I just have so much respect for it. I have enough respect for it to put it here. Right here. This item's great. If you've never taken it, you're missing out. It's just incredible. Like, I can't really say enough good about it. I'm such a fan. Moving on to Cleric. What is this item even called? God, staff. Yeah, Priest's Staff. It's like one of those items that just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Relic Antique slowly restores HP when current HP is at 30% or less. I don't know how to feel about this item. It has good or at least, I mean, it has revenge, so like it has the good inscription. But at the same time, I don't have a ton of experience with this item. It's because I never take it, and honestly, who does? I guess if you're playing a relic run, sometimes you would take it. But the thing about it is revenge is already good enough on its own as HP restoration, to where like who cares about the slow restoration of HP when you're below 30%? Excuse me. Whew. Who cares? It's redundant. Like, it's just redundancy. And at that point, it's basically just an inscription stick, right? That's what it is at the end of the day, if you're using it for that purpose, which to me says C tier. Like, it's, and I guess someone can chime in if they'd like and give their take on this item if you really want to defend it, though I doubt anyone will. But to me, I just don't really see the freaking value of it, you know? To me, it's just like, I don't know, like it just exists, and it's one of those items that comes out of adventurer bodies often as well. Like, you see this when you loot the priestess all the time, and you're never excited to see it. It's even lower than this. It's even lower than this. I'd say it's probably fine here. Yeah, yeah. I'm even tempted to take it lower, but yeah, not a fan. It's just bizarre. So let's move on to the Great Bow of Truth. I think that's what it's called. This was one I'm definitely gonna have to look at because it's new and I don't have a ton of it. Yeah, it's Great Bow of Truth. I don't have a ton of experience with the Great Bow of Truth. Using it's Strike Mystery because, you know, it came in the DLC, so it's a mystery item. Using a skill increases physical attack by 10% for 8 seconds, stacks up to 60%. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect increases crit rate by 20%. Honestly, very comparable to the Manatech staff, just with different inscriptions. It's like a physical version of that with Strike. Great Bow of Truth is actually pretty dang good, honestly. It's like, I don't have a ton of experience with it, but that's just because I don't play Strike very often. I don't have a super high opinion of Strike, but I would not mind trying to try more Strike runs in the future. This item is definitely exactly what Strike needed. It's the kind of item that Strike desperately needs, and there needs to be more items like this, in my opinion, for Strike to get more consistent as an inscription. But like, this is definitely a good addition to the game, and like, it shows the devs are like paying attention and they know what's up, which is nice to see. You know, you want your captain to be awake at the wheel as he's as they're steering the ship. So where does that leave the Great Bow of Truth in the overall scheme of things? I think it's definitely an S tier item. It's just a question of where does it fall on that. And man, the more I see this falling further down, this to me is a crime. Like, I keep looking at this and thinking like, this is way too far down. Like, genuinely. I'm gonna move it here. I'm gonna move it here. I'm gonna move it here. Okay. Yo, this is why the tweaking at the end is gonna be important. Great Bow of Truth, I think, is probably like around here. Maybe it could be above this. I would say probably not, because it's a little more cumbersome. The reason it's not here along with Manatech staff is because Misfortune and crit items, and just like basically Strike versus Misfortune. Misfortune's a lot more universally applicable than Strike. Strike is a very hyper-focused like strategy that also GeForce, thank you for showing me I have an update. I don't know if that showed up in OBS, but it did. Shouts to freaking GeForce, I guess. But yeah, it's just Strike versus Misfortune, basically. Strike is more hyper fixated on a specific kind of thing. But yeah, Great Bow of Truth is good. Moving on to Manatech Circulator. Definitely one of the enablers for Little Bone, for sure. This item is Manatech and Mana Cycle, and I will spawn one in just to absolutely make sure I'm getting this right. Where is it? Here it is. When using this skill, which is very strange wording, the cooldown of a different skill decreases by 2 seconds. So Whenever you cast just one of your skills, if you have the other skill on cooldown, it decreases the cooldown by 2 seconds. Makes for very spammable shenanigans. This is definitely a good item. It's not an item you see me take a ton, because I just kind of think like you can already spam your skills pretty crazy with just like Arachna Shrines shenanigans and stuff like that. But like for Little Bone in particular, this is like one of the grand enablers because it has like inscriptions he needs. It allows him to spam his head toss ability more, and you kind of often need this item on Little Bone and to do like the Giga Little Bone runs to get like the true animation canceling shenanigans where like his skills are instantly cooling down. You need this along with the Mage's Mana Bracelet. I think this is an A tier item. Just like I'm a damage slut. It is what it is. I'm fully copped to it. This doesn't scale your damage directly, so it's just not as appealing in that sense. But like you can definitely get a lot of use out of Manatech Circulator. It's quite good. So where does that leave it in the grand scheme of things? Maybe here? Let me look at some of these other items below it and see if anything sticks out particularly as a crime to me. I don't think so. This looks like a fine spot for it. Like, this isn't an item I've given a ton of thought to, I guess. So, like, it makes it kind of harder to tier for that reason. But I think that's probably a good spot for it. It just kind of exists in my mind, and it's like, it's good. It's good on certain runs in particular. But it's not like an item you're often dying to have. Sometimes, though, it will give you grand value. I would imagine it's also probably really good on Mage. But let's move on from it. This is the Chalice of something or other. What the heck's it called? I need to commit Chalice of Glory. I need to commit these newer items to memory. But this is Mystery and Artifact. Increases magic attack by 4% for every 10% increase in attack speed. The maximum 100% increase. Reaching the maximum limit for this effect increases skill casting speed by 20%. I love Chalice of Glory. I think Chalice of Glory is just an excellent addition. I like the scaling method that it has. It's actually pretty damn hard to reach the maximum limit for this, I find. But the thing is, even if you don't reach the maximum limit, you're still gaining massive damage percent just from Arachna Shrine scaling. Like, this is extremely dense damage scaling with Artifact attached to it. I think Artifact Mystery is the inscriptions. I think I forgot to say that. But yeah, very, very good stuff across the board. I don't know, man. This is one of my favorite items from the new deal. And also, like, I'm a big fan of skill casting speed increase. It's why I like Manatech 3 so much. It's really rare to find on most stat scaling things. In fact, I'm sure there are other things I'm forgetting. But, like, for me, it's like, when I think of this, or what skill casting speed is attached to in terms of items and inscriptions, I can only think of Manatech in this. But like I said, I'm probably just missing something. Either way, yeah, Chalice of Glory is fantastic. So good, in fact, that it doesn't belong here. It's better than this. It's better than this. Actually, is it better than? Yeah, it's better than Demonomicon. I'm gonna put it here. Maybe even here. You know what? I'm gonna put it here. I think that's good. Nah, let's move on back. The minutia, man. But yeah, this thing's good as it's good as hell. I guess the problem with it is it's hard to get to the 100 and get that skill casting speed. But even if you don't reach that, you're still happy with this item. It's good. Move on to something I don't even know the name. It's like armor, or like, what is this thing called? Steel armor. Yeah, there you go. This is one of the newer items added in the DLC. Fortress Mystery. Gains 5 shield for 3 seconds upon using a skill, maximum 15. Increases magic attack by 10% for every 5 shields you possess, maximum 50. Not an item I've ever used. And maybe, I don't know, man. People just, I need to be a Fortress pilled, man. Like, I've still to this day not been sold on Fortress, even after its most recent buffs. There's just not enough gameplay based around it. There's not enough damage scaling based around this side, or just Fortress in general. Like, it seems like if you play Fortress runs, it's hard to get good enough damage percent to capitalize or to be able to like effectively kill the enemy. You're focusing too much on defense. When in Skul the Hero Slayer, your best offense is a good defense, or your best defense is a good offense. I'm a fool and got it backwards. Yeah, like items like this are definitely steps in the right direction, but it's a maximum of 50. And do you understand how hard it is to get enough shields for that? Like getting getting even 25 shield like that you can generate passively is not super easy in this game. Although I guess it with the way it is now, it might actually be easier these days. But like, I don't know, like 50 damage percent is nothing on a unique. Like 50 damage percent, we just got done talking about the chalice, dog. This shit goes up to 100. And even if you can't like get it maxed out frequently, it's still more than that. Like, I don't know, man. And also this thing's inscriptions are doo-doo. Fortress Mystery, like, it's just not appealing to me. I don't know. Like, I'm just not sold on Fortress. I'm just not. Although I will say what I was saying before when I was thinking it through, I think you could pretty consistently get the maximum damage percent out of this, at least now. Because it only gives you value up with 25 shield. But, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. To me, this is a B tier item. It's certainly a high B tier item. I think I could fairly put it, like, around here. And I could even in the future, if I ever become Fortress pilled, you know, I could move this into A, but like, just not sold on Fortress. You need to give Fortress users more stats that aren't Shield Skull. You know, like if something only works with one character, like I used to think Chase was, then I don't know. Like it's not very interesting. But let's move on to Silent Sword. I think that's what it's called. Let me look. Silence Sword. Yeah, that would have been a super actually moment for my audience, so I'm glad I fucking got that right. This is Hidden Blade Duel, amplifies damage dealt from behind by 25%. Not an item I've ever really used, although I will say it does intrigue me quite a bit. This is, and we're going to talk about this more on the Legendary and Omen Day, but there is an item in the game called Hidden, or it's the Hidden Blade Omen. What's it called? I don't know. We'll figure it out on the freaking day of. But like the Hidden Blade Omen teleports you behind the enemy, and it also gives you like enormous damage percent amplification. So maybe there's a strategy to be had with this. You can also have like Thief's Backstab and get pretty good value out of that. And just like, I don't know, maybe there's a way to consistently hit the enemy from behind. But also think about it like this. What the hell is the back of what the hell is considered behind when you're fighting like Alexander's Fists? What the hell is considered behind when you're fighting Joan? How the hell do you consistently get behind Dark Skull? Like, he's too fast. Even the hero's too fast. Like, to me, something like this, it's just niche, I guess. And maybe I'm just wrong and you can do it consistently. But like, I don't know. It's not an item I've ever been sold on, though. Maybe for now, I think I'll put it in high B. It does. Hidden Blade's a terrible inscription, but Duel is good. You know what? I'll put it in low A, because I don't know. Amplification is quite a powerful tool, and it probably deserves more exploration from me. I don't know. It's just a weird item for me. It's so niche and hyper specific. But let's move on to Rosary. Rosary is Sore Relic, so another one of those sad items that gets just relic forced upon it because it's holy symbolism. When you're in the air, you gain X more amount of stats. I would look it up, but like I don't want to, I think it's 75 damage percent when you're in the air. in both directions. So Soar is just kind of a niche inscription across the board. Not a lot of characters would really see a lot of use out of it. Gargoyle sees a lot of use out of it, and so does Pikeman. And there's, of course, a few others. Davy Jones is a Soar character. But most characters spend their time on the ground. And also, the thing about Skul is... Sorry for yawning so much, by the way. The thing about Skul is most enemies are on the ground, too. It's very rare to see enemies like that are constantly flying, like the Mage, Joan. But most enemies spend most of their time on the ground. So Soar just is, like, weird in that sense. But in terms of Soar items, Rosary is definitely one of the better ones. It's one of the only standout items that I really like on Soar. I think it's definitely an A tier item. I think that's a pretty solid spot for Rosary. I would actually put it behind this. It's fine. Like, if you're playing Sword, you like it. Shitty inscription, sadly. But that's just because it's saddled with and I shouldn't say Sword is shitty. Sword is not a shitty inscription, but Relic is not necessarily a shitty inscription, but it's like if you're playing Relic, you're focusing Relic, and if you're playing Relic, why would you ever build Sword? So the inscriptions just don't complement each other, but that's just typical Relic items. Anyway, let's move on to whatever the hell this thing's called. I don't even slightly know what it's called, so I'm just gonna have to scroll through all of the items in the dev menu and get to where the DLC items are and find it like that, because I just don't even slightly know what it's called. Strategy book. There you go. This is a physical or heirloom mystery. Physical attack increases by 120 for 5 seconds upon performing a normal attack after using a skill. Cooldown 10 seconds. This item's cooldown decreases by 3 seconds upon slaying an enemy. So it's got the Seal of Death, guys. The Seal of Death of it does not work against bosses. Also, it just in general, it creates one of those awkward flow of gameplays, much like Mana Eater, which I actually think is good. But that's because it does a ton of damage and it works against all enemies in the game. But this is only against bosses, so the Seal of Death, our poor boy, never stood a chance. Yeah, I'm just not a fan. Really, just at all. I think it's like a high C tier item. I'll put it at the tip top of C tier. I'm tempted to put it in B because the damage scaling is good. The inscriptions are fine. But just, I don't know. It's just kind of doo-doo, in my opinion. Not that I'm happy to say it's doo-doo. I don't revel in calling an item doo-doo, but it is doo-doo. Let's move on to Thief's Blacksteel Daggers, one of the long-reigning kings in this game. This is Rapidity and Hidden Blade, and for every time you attack an enemy with your basic, I can't remember if it works with... You know, I was not going to spawn one in, but I'm going to here, just so I can really get it right. Each attack increases crit by 2% for 2 seconds. Maybe it does work with skills then. In fact, it probably does. 2% for 2 seconds, up to 40. And this is the most crit percent dense item in the game, and it has been forever, and it probably always will be unless power creep kills everything that we know and love and hold sacred. This is one of the long-reigning favorite items in Skul the Hero Slayer, and it's very easy to see why. It kind of just complements all crit builds. You pretty much always take this on crit builds if you see it. Like, it's good on strike, it's good on crit items, it's good on, I don't know, some secret third option, I guess poison crit. It's great, just across the board. Easy S tier item. I'll put it right here. It's just genuinely great. It doesn't scale your damage, or I guess the thing is crit does scale your damage. So technically it does scale your damage, it just doesn't make the dopamine hit because the red or blue number doesn't go up. But it is a very good item, and it does, technically speaking, scale your crit. So, you know, we here at the Haxa community and just everyone in the Skul community loves this item. What more can we say? Moving on to Stone Mask. Basically the sister item, or the brother item, whatever you want to consider it, of our boy here. This is, depending on your highest rarity skull, oh, also antique and a treasure, same inscriptions as this. Depending on your highest tier skull, you get more gold percent. I think it's 40%, so it's like 20% for common, 30% for rare, 40, 50. Let me look that up. Is that right? I'm trying not to spawn in every fucking item, but like, I do have to check. Yeah, it is up. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, this item's insane. 50%, up to 50% a gold percent gain. If you find Stone Mask early, you're set. Like, if you find even a unique early and you get Stone Mask, you have so much money you don't even know what to do with it, and you end up with both of these items, you're insane. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's so good, in fact, that I'm going to put it above Blacksteel Daggers, because, sure, Blacksteel Daggers is incredible, but having a lot of money is like, you get Blacksteel Daggers. You could even have a boat. But yeah, or it could even be a bow. I was misquoting a Family Guy joke. Boomer moment. But yeah, it's great. Stone Mask is wonderful. Gold percent gain is wonderful. Yeah, man. What can you say? Like, having gold percent, or just gold in general, is very important in Skul the Hero Slayer runs. Let's move on to the recently buffed Stigma Balls. Or Stigma Leg. I'm going to restrain myself here and say Stigma Leg. This is an item that recently got buffed in the sense that they removed the inherent cooldown that it used to have. Remember, I said earlier in the tier list is cooldowns kill items. Stigma Leg, for a long time, was not terrible, but it certainly wasn't very good because of the cooldown it had on it. But now it's great. It's duel and chase, two wonderful inscriptions. Leave a mark on the first enemy you collide with. When dashing or using a skill deals an additional magic damage to the marked enemy. So technically, it's an ability spam item. Dude, it's an item that I've built multiple dash runs since 1.9 came out, and for the record, it is 1.9 buff. Console players will not be able to play with buffed Stigma Leg until then. But I've played multiple dash runs since this item was buffed, and it never shows up, and it's really starting to irritate me. And it's honestly lucky that I'm still putting it in S tier, because I'm kind of upset with the item, and would very happily put it in like D tier just for pissing me off and not showing up, which is a warning to Stigma Leg to show up on my runs. But yeah, man, Stigma Leg is wonderful now. Cooldowns kill items. Like, it's just as simple as that. And removing a cooldown from an item, such as our boy Explosive Arrow here, just changes the game. Although he still has a cooldown, but it's a 0.3 second cooldown, so it's not super rough. It's usable now, and that's all that matters. But now Stigma Leg is good. So good, in fact, that he's been ascended to S tier. Hooray for our boy. I'm going to put him right here. He could even be better than Mage's Necklace, because it is an ability spam item and a dash item. It's both. But I haven't gotten to experiment with Stigma Balls Leg enough yet to really get a super good concrete feeling for it. But I know this much, it is S tier, because the inscriptions are wonderful, the effect is wonderful, deals a lot of damage. It's just good. You can even consider it in some senses kind of like I guess like a invisible knife effect or a gunpowder sword effect, but I'm gonna leave it here and move on. But just know that if you haven't played with Stigma Leg and you have access to 1.9, you should. Let's talk about Warrior Steel Mace, one of my little pet items. This is arms and stun, and whenever you stun an enemy, it deals additional damage to them, and I think increases your damage by 50 or maybe 40. I'm not going to look it up because we got to pick up the pace. This item is, I don't know if it's underrated anymore, but in the past it was, and basically the reason it was underrated is because people sleep on certain quintessences, Medusa, and they don't see the inherent value of carrying something like this because they don't see the inherent value of carrying something like Medusa. One of my favorite combos in the game is Medusa and Warrior Steel Mace together. I don't know, it deals a lot of damage, it makes stun more powerful, it has good inscriptions. Like, stun is already a powerhouse inscription, so if you carry this with it and you get even more damage and more stats, I don't know, it does a lot of work. Basically what I'm saying is, it's either high A or low S. I'm tempted to put it in a high A because, like, I don't know, outside of stun run, it's like a universal item, but like, also we're considering things in their best like, none of these are universal items, so maybe it is S tier. If Hand of the Destroyer is A tier, is this A tier, I guess is what I'm thinking. Maybe that means Hand of the Destroyer is S tier. I think I'm gonna leave it in A tier for now. And maybe, you know what, I'll move this down to A2. I guess the thing that makes me consider, I should consider the inscriptions on this as well, because this has better inscriptions than Hand of the Destroyer. You know what, I'm gonna put this in S. I'm gonna put it at low S. I'm gonna put it here. I think that's fine for Warrior Steel Mace. Maybe I'll move it up, because I am tempted to move it up. It's just like my pet item. I'm trying to remove my biases here, at least a little bit, but like this is definitely one of my just preferred items. I love it. It's so fun to use. But just, you know, I'm gonna keep my biases in check. Let's leave it there for now and move on to Spirit of a Warrior. What the heck is this thing called? See, this is the problem with the DLC items, that I haven't committed their names to memory, so sometimes I have to do this. Fighting Spirit of a Warrior. So I was close. This is Revenge, Mystery. Every item from the DLC is saddled with Mystery. And let me remind myself what this does. Gains 1 Fighting Spirit upon being hit. Upon getting 3 Fighting Spirits, consume all Fighting Spirits and surround you in a blaze which deals physical damage to nearby enemies and increases physical attack by 60% for 10 seconds. You cannot gain Fighting Spirit when you are surrounded by the blaze. Okay, interesting. It's basically conditional Hate Stone. So, is it worse or better than Hate Stone? I would say it's worse than Hate Stone. It's physical Hate Stone with conditions. But it does have Revenge, which is excellent. And it does give you damage percent. But like, every time you get hit with Hate Stone, you gain 55. Whereas this, like, you have to get hit 3 times, and then you have like a cooldown where you can't gain Fighting Spirit. I would say putting it right behind Hate Stone is completely fair, but it is an S tier item. Revenge is extremely good. For the longest time, Revenge was better on Magic, because Magic has Voodoo Doll and Hate Stone. But at least now physical Revenge has this to scale their damage. But yeah, it is Revenge, and that's and damage percent, and that's enough to make it good. So let's move on to Witch's Brew. Witch's Brew is Heritage and Heritage and Mutant. Don't know why I blinked on that. Shut up. One of the NPCs is trying to talk to me. Let's move away from him. When it alternating physical attack is increased by 85% in speeds upon move. What? Oh wow, this is worded very strangely. When alternating physical attack increases by 85% and speeds up move. Oh no, it's not. I'm just stupid. Speeds up move speed by 120%. Though I guess that is like, and increases move speed would be better. But I was reading it wrong. This effect lasts for 5 seconds. So Witch's Brew is actually an item that used to be different, and it got shadow buffed, as I like to say, in one of the patches. There was a patch where the devs left out a bunch of patch notes, and forgot to tell us that they changed things. And this is one of the items that got that treatment. This item used to only increase your movement speed, and it would like give you a gigantic burst of movement speed that would slowly decrease over the course of 5 seconds. And it might have been attack speed too, actually, now that I think about it. In fact, I think it might have been both attack speed and move speed, but they changed it to increase your damage. They basically turned it into an alternate version of Victory Baton, which we'll talk about next. Victory Baton and Witch's Brew are basically sister items that do very similar things. Mutant with extreme damage scaling that give you other stats on top. And I quite like both of them. I think they're both good enough to be an S tier. Think of them as better badges, basically. Because a lot of people will use the badges here for the damage scaling, but these are just that, but like with more damage scaling. And at least in the case of well, actually, I would say both of them have better inscriptions now that I'm really thinking about it. Because now Heritage is like a perfectly usable inscription, and this actually doesn't have like any of that counter synergy that I was talking about with Heritage, with like items like this, whatever the hell it's called, I can't remember. This actually has good synergy with Heritage, so There's nothing negative to say about either of its inscriptions. Mutant's great, Heritage is great. This just does good things across the board. So let's move it probably up to around, like, I think here's probably, I had it there to begin with. Sorry, I had to burp. I had it there to begin with, and I think that's a completely fair spot for it, which makes tiering this, tiering the Victory Baton very easy. This is very similar. It's like, I think less overall stats than Witch's Brew, if I'm not mistaken. Let me spawn in one. It's called Victory Baton. This is 85. Okay, they both give the same amount of damage percent, but Victory Baton gives less movement speed, but it has the additional effect of whenever you defeat an enemy, while the effect is active, the duration is reset, basically removing the swap incentive and giving you like an extra way to keep it going. But obviously this doesn't work against bosses. However, since it is not an item effect that solely relies on activating while killing enemies, it's still good. In fact, it's literally just right above Witch's Brew. That's because it has Execute instead of Heritage, which is a lot more universal of inscription, and it's a very good inscription. So that just ever so slightly ekes it out. You trade in movement speed with this item for consistency of uptime in rooms. But movement speed isn't a terribly important stat anyway, so who cares? Let's move on to Wing Armor. This is Soar and Fortress, I think. Let me spawn it in, because this is an item I'm super unfamiliar with. This item has existed in the game for a very long time, but I've never taken it and never will. Damage taken while in midair is reduced by 35%, and skill cooldown speed is increased by 50. That's so stupid. Oh god, they were like, oh, the damage reduction. Dude, we have to add a caveat here, because like if they have 35% damage reduction while they're in the air, that's just, dude, like we're getting out of control, man. So the skill cooldown increases by 50. Yeah, okay, good. We fixed it. The item is saved. The Skul community will never have to worry about being too overpowered, because now Wing Armor is kept in check. Wing Armor is terrible. Easy D tier. It's another one of those items that's just baffling. It's so baffling even that I'm gonna put it like here. I don't know, man. It's just sad. It's funny, really. It's saying it's sad is it's funny. This is a funny item. I don't know why it exists. Yep. Let's move on to Wooden Statue. I need to spawn this one in because it's like stats. All right, I'm gonna rate this as Wood Statue of Horror, which is the upgraded version, the masterpiece version. Speeds up skill cooldown speed by 120% and speeds up attack speed by 30. When hit, this item will no longer be effective. So whenever you take damage, the item just turns off, and it lasts for 10 seconds. You can mitigate this. It's heirloom and masterpiece, by the way. I should mention that. You can mitigate this by having heirloom, or I guess, does it work with shields? I don't know. It might. But I do not have a particularly high opinion of Wood Statue of Horror, or even the previous version, because I personally, and this is like where my gameplay style comes into play, and I can't really escape that to rate this. Though I will try to be a little objective here. Like, I'm reckless. I play recklessly. I don't try and avoid damage. I tank damage with, like, swap shields and stuff. So an item like this, for me in particular, is very just not good. And I also don't really highly value the stat changes that much, although skill cooldown speed by 120 is huge. That is a massive number, skill cooldown speed. So, like, it's not bad. The stat gains are good. It's just not an item that I think really justifies, like, the playstyle it kind of tries to make you do. I guess if you're... Some people just play more carefully than I do, I guess, and they probably like this item a lot more than me. But I think this is a B tier item. I'll put it at the top of B, though. I'll put it, like, right here. Here. I'll put it here. It's not bad. B doesn't mean bad. It means bud. But, you know, it is what it is. It's just one of those items, I guess. Now here's where things get a little tricky. This is where things get really tricky, because we're moving on to the sin items. And Sin is a very interesting mechanic in Skul. I'm just going to open up all these. Wait, why am I doing this on this? I'm going to spawn them in on Skul. Sin is a very interesting mechanic in this game. For one reason that is particularly worth mentioning. Sin is not a function. It's broken. The problem with Sin is the NPC that gives us the Sin items cannot give us all of the Sin items. In fact, much like most of the NPCs in this game, he's broken because he favors certain things. The devs, for whatever reason, have left this broken in the game for eons. Like, ever since the Dark Mirror came out, and even before that, if we're being real, NPCs in this game don't. The RNG is not actually RNG. They favor certain things. How many times have you guys seen the Greed Sin? How many times have you guys seen the Chase Sin? Then you very rarely see the Sloth Sin. Sometimes you see Gluttony. You very rarely see Envy, and you never see Lust, and you never see Wrath. Wrath and Lust do not exist in the game unmodded. When I play Skul in my videos, I have a mod that was created by Mr. Bakanudo, the GOAT, who he fixed the RNG and makes it normal. Same with all the NPCs I play. Sometimes you'll see me get damage percent amplification from Spokesman of the Mist in the Dark Mirror. You don't see that shit when you play because the NPC or the Spokesman of the Mist is broken in Vanilla Skul. He can only give max HP, crit rate, and attack speed in unmodded Skul, but for me he gives a damage amp because it's modded in. The slime favors certain slots. If you have 9 items, he favors 2, 5, 9. Oh, actually, I'm showing this like you guys can see my Skul. I gotta remember I'm recording a browser, but he favors 2, 5, 9, and sadly, you like, I have a mod that makes it to where it's full random. Some people like that he favors slots. That's one of the broken NPC things that kind of benefits the player. But point being is, like, you guys have never, like, most of y'all don't even know what this does. Most of y'all don't even know what this does. Some of y'all barely know what this, and this does. And most people are only familiar with these two. Like, those are the ones you see the most. So let me briefly, you know what, I'm going to rank the ones everyone knows first. Sin, the treasure Sin, it's treasure and Sin. Gold acquisition increases by 50 for 5 seconds upon defeating an enemy. Not bad. It's like a fairly good option for gold percent gain, but it's conditional, and enemies in general don't drop a lot of gold. So basically, to get the value you want out of this item, you have to, like, kill an enemy and then as quickly as possible either break the treasure pile or break the item you don't want from the treasure chest, so you get that 50% gold acquisition. I think this is like an A tier item. It's like one of the only gold percent gain items I'm iffy on, but it's like a good A tier item. I think it's probably like, I don't know, here. I'll put it here. It's not terrible. Chase, the chase one, I'm trying to remember exactly what it does. Move speed increases by 150 for 2 seconds after dodging. Just, I don't know. Sin is a decent effect in general, so I'm going to probably put it in B. Like, and also I should mention what Sin does. Sin basically turns whatever the higher damage percent you have, if you have like a physical Skul and you have like 1,000 magic and like 0 physical damage, the higher damage percent will be what your damage percent or the damage type you deal moving forward is. So your physical Skul will start dealing magic damage, and, you know, etc, etc. Physical items will deal magic damage, stuff like that. But the enemy takes 30% less damage across the board. The game says 10, but everyone always tells me it's 30. So I'm just gonna go with what people say, because people will yell at me if I don't repeat that. So I think the game is lying, but I don't know for sure. Either way, let's rank these items. This item is, like, Sin is fine, but it's just not a good Sin item, so I'm going to put it in, like, B. I'm even tempted to put it down here. This is like a bit of a burden to carry. Like, if you want Sin on your run, carrying this item sucks, because like it's not the only thing it's doing for you is Sin, and maybe if you're playing Chase, it's good. But I don't know, I'm gonna put it at the back of B. I'm really tempted to put it in C, but I'll leave it there. And now we start getting into the lesser known ones. So we have Envy here. Physical and magic attack increases by 100% for 20 seconds upon entering a map. So it's like one of those items that it works against bosses, but not forever. And if you're playing a boss that takes a while, like Dark Skull, you're gonna lose those stats. But like most people take Sin for Sin. So like, sure, the 100 damage percent is nice, but you're not taking this for the 100 damage percent. But I'm still gonna rank it based on the item text. I think this is a low A tier Sin item. I'm gonna put it here. No, I'll put it here. It's fine. It's good. The 100 damage percent's dense, but like it only lasts 20 seconds, and like I said, you're taking this for Sin. This is which one is this again? Gluttony. This is Sin Execute. Oh, also, did I mention this is Sin? The Envy is Sin Rapidity. So just to get that out of the way, Gluttony is Sin Execute. Recover 1 HP upon defeating 3 enemies. Doesn't work against bosses, so pretty freaking bad for it. However, Execute is a good inscription, but still, in terms of Sin items, I don't have a particularly high opinion of this one. I'm gonna put it here. No, because like it is, like it's so hard to rank these because you take it for Sin, is the thing. Let's put it there. No, that's good, I guess. I don't know. I'll leave it there for now. Like it's hard to rank these Sin items because, like I said, you barely see them, and some of y'all have never seen these two in particular. But let's move on to this one. This one's Fortress Sin, and I think it's whenever you enter a map, you gain 20 shield. Let's make absolute sure of that. Yep. No, it is 20 shield up to 20. I always thought that was funny. 20 shield up to 20, because like I guess if you keep your 20 shield in one room, they don't want you to get 20 shield in the next. So that's it. See, it loses the 10 shield syndrome, which I'm a big fan of. You know what? If we're talking fortress items I like, this is one of them. This is just a good Sin item that has a good effect on it, and the shield generation is nice. So I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Let's put it like, I don't know, here. I'm gonna put it here. That's good. Let's move on to what's this one? Lust? Yeah, Lust. So this is one you very likely, in fact, almost certainly have never seen, maybe outside of my videos. Cooldown of all skills decreases by 1 second upon defeating an enemy with a skill. So it doesn't work against bosses. It's Sin mana cycle. Good inscriptions, but doesn't work against bosses, so it makes me not like it. I'm going to drop that Mother Hubbard in C tier. Or no, I'll put it in B, because no Sin really belongs in C tier. Because the inscription's fine. I'm going to put it like here, I guess. I would say it's better than Bone of Time. Probably better than this. I'll put it here. That's fine for that. And here is the creme de la creme of Sin items. This one's Mutant Sin. Attack speed increases by 90% for 6 seconds upon alternating. So, like, this is the true crime that's been committed on us as Skul players, is that we can't get Wrath. This is an insane item. Even just as an item, it's good. But it's Sin and it's Mutant, two really good inscriptions, and the text is crazy. It works against bosses. Like, this is definitely an S tier Sin, for sure. Did I put, yeah, I put Fortress Sin in A, but this is the S tier Sin that we can't even use. So someone who's Korean or something and can speak directly to Southpaw needs to tell them about this shit, because it's crazy, man. Fix the NPCs, please, or just download Mr. Bakununo's fix and put that shit in the official game, please. But yeah, I'm gonna put it in high, or not high S tier, but like it's definitely up here. Let's drop it let's drop it here next to, because these two do similar things. So we'll put them next to each other. And there you have it, actually. That's all the uniques. We're done. I think this one's shorter than the previous one, but they might end up being around the same length, because I'm just a long-winded motherfucker. And also, there is quite a lot of uniques in this game. I don't know how many uniques versus rares there are, but I think they're maybe about the same. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Sorry for the boot method break in the middle, but like it was for the best. I feel a lot better that I was able to take my time in the latter half of this video and just leisurely, at my own pace, rank these items. However, this is not the end of the item tier list. We will continue into the next video with legendaries and omens, and those are all that remain. So, or aside from the lunar ring and the solar sword, you know, those are also rares, but I chose to not do them until I do the Fulgent Dawn items. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'm certainly enjoying doing this item tier list. It's been long overdue. Like I said at the end of the last one, don't take this too seriously, because like tier list is just for fun. Like basically it's just a way for me to bloviate about items. Like the rankings are certainly my opinions, but like if something you like is like in the dumpster, if somehow one of y'all likes one of these items, you know, I don't know, enjoy, you do you. I'm not here to judge your opinions, I'm just here to give mine. So that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate y'all, and I will see you again in the next video where we will rank omens and legendaries, and then we will be done. Bye bye.